All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you, and welcome back to another YouTube Live with me. Thanks, everyone, for coming on. It's really nice to see everybody here. Um, just wanted to give another special shout out to my friend Christopher Brand. Okay, I think we're back. Very sorry about that. My internet, my internet just decided to just completely die right in the middle of my sentence. So very sorry about that. I've now had to connect through my phone, so the house internet has just completely died. But anyway, just wanted to give a special shout out to my friend Christopher Brandlin, who goes by the Carnivore Lawyer, for all of his help and support in helping me patent my episodes, which has been a huge ordeal. And because you have to patent each and every one individually, so it's a bit of a monster. So he's been very helpful with that, and so I want to give him a special shout out as a special sponsor of this episode. And for those who don't know, he provides free legal advice and help to the carnivore community, and can be reached on his website at brandlinlaw.com. That's BRANDLIN law.com. All right. So, oh goodness, it looks like because when it died, all my starred messages got erased. So I'm going to start with the one that I can see here, and maybe we can restart the other ones and see them again. But starting with the one that's just here now. It's from Derek Johnson. Thank you very much, Derek, for the super chat. Hi, Anthony. My biopsy was positive for cancer of the thyroid and lymph nodes. I'm very sorry to hear that. Surgery scheduled to remove thyroid. Besides keeping GKI low, do you recommend sprints or walking? Seafried says walk. Omara says sprint. Thanks, and go Kangs. So there's different evidence. If you look at some of the evidence and some of the studies, when you're doing like sort of more high intensity exercise, it can show benefit, sometimes similar to that of like hyperbaric oxygen therapy for cancer treatment, things like that, just sort of getting your heart rate up and working hard. I don't know exactly what, because I haven't like dug into that research, but it's something that I know that Dr. Paul Mason has spoken about and talked about, because he's an exercise physiologist and sports medicine doctor, and he I remember in one of his talks he did say that exercise was actually beneficial, and so I would still imagine that sprinting would be good. You're stimulating your body in very positive ways. And I hadn't heard Professor Seafried's sort of opinion on any of those, on what he on any of those, on what the best sort of exercise would be. So I would just say whatever you're capable of doing. If you're up for doing sprints and pushing yourself, I think that would probably be beneficial. Walk at the least. Staying active, keeping your body moving is going to be it's just going to be helpful to your overall health. And if your overall health is better, then you're going to be able to deal with any sort of situation better in any case. But from memory, but this is sort of going off of what Dr. Mason was saying, that hard workouts can be actually very beneficial. So maybe try to find Dr. Mason's lecture on that, where he talks about that, and you can see exactly which studies he's referencing, and see exactly what kind of exercise they're talking about there. But my memory of it was that it was strenuous exercise. I don't remember specifically long drawn out cardio or sprinting, but I wouldn't think that it's going to harm you anyway to do sprinting, as long as you're up for it and you're capable of that. Some people that have cancer are extremely infirm, and they really can't do anything more than walking, and so just getting them out and walking is going to be a huge improvement as well. So that could be the distinction there as well. But if you're feeling good and you're able to do more and do sprints, then that is I would expect to be better. But again, I don't know all the research on that, so take a look. Okay, all right. Looks like we got most of these starred back up. So thank you very much, Melissa, for helping out with that. Okay. And then very generous super chat from Terry. Thank you so much, Terry. Hi, Dr. Chaffee, supporting you tonight. Thanks for all your work. Well, thank you. That's very, very kind of you. Very sweet of you. Thank you very much for coming on. And I'm glad that you like my videos. Nice to see you. Pingu the Penguin, thank you very much for the super chat. And the name. Hi, doctor. I am in recovery from anorexia and I wanted to know if this diet could help with my low testosterone. Any advice would be appreciated, as my doctor wants me to eat carbs. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, anytime you're coming from disordered eating, especially things like anorexia, where you're eating very small amounts, or just like, look, you just need to eat everything. Well, that's sort of the problem in the first place, wasn't it? You were eating everything and that wasn't working, and people were feeling sick and they were gaining weight. They were like, well, that's not going to work. And then so you went sort of on the other end. So just going back is sort of disordered in the other direction. You're just telling yourself it's okay, even though you're getting results that you may not find favorable. So I think it's a very good solution to be on carnivore in this situation. I've seen a lot of people who formerly had anorexia fix their condition and feel a lot better, obviously physically, but also mentally, that they didn't have to worry about limiting and restricting, because they could just eat a lot of meat and feel great doing it. And so they were happy to do that. As far as low testosterone, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the only thing that's going to help your testosterone. Carbs are not going to help your testosterone. Going ketogenic can help your testosterone, and getting enough meat and fat and cholesterol is what's going to help your testosterone, because testosterone is made from cholesterol. All your sex steroids hormones are made out of cholesterol, and and it's a major portion of it. 95% of testosterone molecule is cholesterol. So it's just a couple little additions that change it up. So cholesterol is extremely important, and you get that from eating meat and being healthy and eating a proper human diet. So I would absolutely do that. So my patients that go onto a carnivore diet with a lot of fat, the fat's very important for your overall health, and particularly your hormonal health, that they improve their testosterone dramatically. And including eggs are great in there too. Eggs have a lot of cholesterol and saturated fat and those sorts of things, which are, surprise, surprise, good for you. That's why they're in eggs, because they're good for animals, and that's why they make up building blocks in the physical structures of a baby, right? And that's why eggs have a lot of saturated fat and cholesterol, because the body needs saturated fat and cholesterol. And that's why breast milk has the highest concentration of saturated fat and cholesterol of any food in nature, because you need it. And babies in particular, because their brains are growing and their bodies are growing. It's very, very important. So I would just keep eating fatty meat until it stops tasting good, just like everybody would in other situations. And then just see how you go. I would be shocked if your body didn't start improving from all standpoints, but especially your testosterone as well. That'll come up. Sometimes it takes a while for your body to turn on, so give it a few months. Always check it in the morning. First thing in the morning is when you're going to have highest levels of testosterone. So always check it at the same time every morning, because if you check it at different times, check once later in the day, you're always going to have relatively less testosterone than you would have otherwise. And so you check it first thing in the morning, fasting from the night before 9 p.m., only water after that, only water in the morning, no coffee, tea, vitamins, supplements, medications until after you take that blood test between 8 and 9 a.m. Get a good night's sleep for several days before, no stress, no exercise, and no sexual activity for 48 hours before your test. You do that in that way, and don't take biotin, don't take B vitamins that contain biotin. Biotin is a B vitamin, so any B multivitamin or B complex or multivitamin will have biotin in it, and so just don't take that. Don't take that for 5 days before, really, and then you'll get very consistent numbers, and you'll be able to track what you're doing and be able to do that more accurately. If you do that inconsistently, you'll get inconsistent results, and it may be that your numbers are changing and it doesn't have anything to do with your actual production of testosterone, etc. So that's what I would do. And you check a baseline, and then you do carnivore, and then 3 months later into carnivore, you check it again, and you see how you feel. That's the most important thing. And you can check that against your bloods, and they'll get better. They will absolutely get better. Good luck with that. Lively Linus, thank you very much for the super chat. Tips for me to stop zoning out and getting tunnel vision. Had this all my life. Can't see objects in peripherals at times. Causes accidents. Oh, goodness, that's not good. So I don't drive anymore. I want to fix this. Started line diet in June 30th. Well, unfortunately, I don't have a great answer for you because that's not something that I typically treat. Hopefully you're working with your doctor. I'm sure you have if this has been going on for years or your whole life. One thing that I'm glad you're starting a lion diet though, because one thing that fixing your diet can do is it fixes problems that we didn't even realize were problems for a lot of the time, and also fix problems that no one else had any answer for and ability to fix otherwise. So it could very well be that this helps that. A lot of people find that their concentration, focus, and brain fog improve. Tunnel vision, there can be a lot of different meanings of the word of saying that you have tunnel vision. If you actually don't have peripheral vision, then that's something that needs to get checked out thoroughly. If you've had that your whole life, then maybe it's not as something that's more acute. But if you really actually don't have visual fields on your peripheral vision, that can be something more serious, like not to put any scary thoughts in your head. But when someone gets that loss of peripheral vision quickly, like over the course of weeks and months, that can be from a pituitary tumor pushing on the optic chiasm, which sort of blocks out the peripheral vision. So you end up getting tunnel vision. You can only see here. And then you're walking, all of a sudden someone's next to you. You're like, oh God, I didn't see how'd you get there? Because you don't see them coming up because you don't have any peripheral vision. And if you've had that your whole life, then it's unlikely that's what's going on, or maybe you had something that affected that part of your brain previously, and then it's just stable. If you'd had something growing there since you were a kid and it didn't get addressed, it would have probably caused more and more problems. However, if you have a visual fields test and you really don't have any peripheral vision, your doctor needs to investigate why the hell that is. And so I would do that. I would talk to your doctor, get a visual fields test, and if that is knocking out, you've knocked out sort of your peripheral vision on both sides like that, you need an MRI and you need to get see an ophthalmologist and other sort of people to see, get that tested properly and to see what the hell is going on, and if there's any sort of particular reason that's happening that can be reversed or fixed or addressed. Because that's very important to find out. So, but again, if this has been going on your whole life, it's less likely that it's something like that, but it's still very important to investigate. And maybe you've already had those investigations done, but if not, I would highly recommend you do that. Quickly. I just go in to see your doctor, straight away. Just get the next appointment and talk to him about it and say, hey, I want to get my visual fields test. I can't see out of my peripheral vision. And get that tested, and maybe it's just a lack of awareness, and that's important to know about too, because that can be other sorts of neurological issues if you just are sort of neglecting certain sides of your body and things like that, even though the visual fields are there and intact, and the retina is intact, and the optic chiasm is intact, and all that sort of stuff. So all good information, but needs to be thoroughly checked out by a doctor. And line diet hopefully can help with some of this as well, but it's not going to fix everything. It's going to fix a lot of things, because a lot of things are being caused by eating a really poor diet. And so when you fix your diet, it fixes a lot of problems. So I think that's great, and I would just encourage you to keep going with that. A lot of fat, high fat, and cut out everything else. That's the idea with lion. It's just red meat and water. But really, really staying with it for at least a few months. Do 100% red meat and water for 100 days, 100% for 100 days, and see how you go. And it'll improve a lot of other things as well. Hopefully, it improves this also. But if you are actually getting to the point that don't have peripheral vision, like just holding your finger out here, like I'm looking straight ahead and I can see my finger moving. If you can't do that, you need to get it checked out as to why that is. Okay. So Live says, I do think it's neurological. It happens when I have something on my mind. It's like my peripherals go away. Okay. Yeah. So you have peripheral vision at one point and then it goes away. It could just be that you're just so focused on something that you zone everything else out. But if it just happens on its own, and when you're not doing anything else, it could be something else. But if it's more that you have something on your mind, and you're just sort of focused on it, you get very heavily distracted away from everything else. That's more reassuring that there isn't anything else going on. But there's no harm in just getting it run by your doctor and just having them do a proper exam and make sure everything's okay. And then just doing a line diet and seeing how that can help. Sometimes like if everything else is going well and you're healthy and the doctor doesn't think there's anything that was particularly wrong that they can help with, then like different occupational therapists, something like that, maybe can help you, with different sort of exercises and tools to, sort of stay more in the moment and be more aware around you. That can be something that can be helpful as well. But hopefully diet helps and hopefully there's nothing else going on, but still worth getting checked out. Let's see. Savine, thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, Dr. C. I talked to a coworker today regarding one of her relatives having stage 4 breast cancer. I'm very sorry to hear that. They told her she would have less than 5 years to live. Would carnivore help? I think that it would. There are a ketogenic carnivore diet. There is a growing body of evidence in the literature showing that ketogenic animal-based diets, like a carnivore diet, it doesn't have to necessarily be a carnivore diet, but just a ketogenic animal fat diet, because it's the animal fats that are good for you and the plant oils are not so good for you. And the studies that show the best results are the ones using meat. They're eating animal fats and things like that to get into ketosis. And then other studies on ketogenics, generally in mice, giving them a bunch of like Crisco and hydrogenated vegetable oil, which does not exist in nature, and yet we're giving them to animals and people and saying, we're getting strange and possibly bad blood markers and biomarkers from this ketogenic diet. And it's just like, yeah, well, no kidding, you're giving them poison. And so they're in ketosis, but they're also giving them poison. And so I'm not surprised that they're getting bad results. The ones that are getting the best results are the high-fat, animal-based ketogenic diets, like a carnivore diet. And depending on the breast cancer too, that's been more studied as well. I remember seeing a study on triple-negative breast cancer responding very well to ketogenic metabolic therapy. Always remember that Dr. Otto Warburg showed nearly 100 years ago that cancer is a mitochondrial metabolic disease. It's not a genetic disorder. And then Watson and Crick came along and discovered DNA, and everyone just went, everything's DNA. Well, most things are stored in the DNA, but that doesn't mean that the DNA is the brain and the powerhouse. The mitochondria are the powerhouse. They're actually moving around in the cell and actually turning things on and off and running the cell as if it were a ship. The DNA and that information that it codes for is very important, but it's sort of the blueprints. It's not the architect and the builders, right? The mitochondria are the workers and the architects. They're using that information and the proteins that it's producing to go and do work elsewhere in the cell. Now, it's a bit more complex than that because the DNA can actually, self-control which proteins get expressed and so on. But that's like a chemical dynamic, and based on gradients and other sorts of signals that the DNA is getting, the mitochondria are actually moving around doing work, and so they're very, very, very important. And excuse me. And so we have something called the Warburg effect, which is that cancer cells require 400 times the amount of glucose as normal cells do. And so it has, has been shown that when you restrict glucose and sugar and you go into a ketogenic state and you get your GKI low, your glucose ketone index, your blood sugar is low and your ketones are high, that actually shows survival benefit in cancers of all different forms. I mean, there's dozens and dozens of studies in multiple different cancers, like dozens of studies in each of these different cancers, including breast cancer, showing significant improvement with ketogenic metabolic therapy. All the studies that show the most benefit are the ones that have the least carbohydrates. So I have some that have sort of middling, like, is it all that much better? Where they're having, low carbohydrate. Well, what the hell does low carbohydrate mean? It's ambiguous. So some of them, like, below 200 grams of carbohydrates, that's a low carbohydrate diet. Well, that's intensely high from my standpoint because I don't have any carbohydrates outside of the glycogen that shows up in meat and organs. And I don't even have that many organs. It's really just meat. So then there's other ones, like 50 grams or, 20 grams and 10 grams and 0 grams. As you go down, people tend to have better outcomes. And so you keep that GKI under 2.0. That's considered therapeutic. And you do that from a combination of a ketogenic diet, like a carnivore diet, and potentially restricted eating. You need to include organs if you're going to do that because you still need the same amount of nutrients. You just want less energy coming in. And potentially fasting. If you can't get your GKI under 2 or even under 1 is preferable for periods of time at least, so that you can sort of have this sort of constant pressure of low access to energy. Then fasting can sometimes help that. It's help sort of tip the balance and get you into that more ketogenic state. So good luck to your friend. Maybe show her my interview with Professor Thomas Seyfried, Seyfried, where we talk about cancer and cancer biology. And it's pretty amazing. It's a hour and 40 minutes long, talking about cancer biology. And it's my most watched long video. It's like 2 million views nearly, or maybe even hit it, but that was 1.9 last time I checked. And then my lecture at there was a medical conference in San Diego last year, and it was just called Ketogenic Metabolic Therapy as a Novel Adjunct to Standard of Care in Cancer. Bit of a mouthful, probably not a punchy enough name to really make it go crazy on the algorithm, but it's a good talk. It has good information in it anyway, and so I would recommend taking a look at those and seeing what she thinks. And at the very least, it's not going to hurt. It can help actually make chemo and radiation more successful by sensitizing the cancer cells to the chemo and radiation and protecting her healthy cells from the chemo and radiation as well. So I would take a look at those and maybe show them to her and see how she does, because it's cancer is really nasty, and you have to throw the kitchen sink at it. Otherwise, you're just sort of giving in to fate, and that's not it's not a good fate to give into. So I would definitely try that. It's not going to hurt her at the very least, and I think it would help. Yes, and that's what the data shows anyway. And the thing is too, you can talk to a doctor. If her doctor has a particular feelings on, oh my God, don't do that, that's a discussion she can have. But the vast majority of doctors that or oncologists that I speak to and that patients speak to, they say, is there anything I can do with my diet? Should I change anything? They say, no, don't worry about it. Eat whatever you want. Okay, well then eat what you want. And if you feel that this is going to help you along with that, then it's worth a try. And that's what more and more studies are showing to be helpful and increase survival. And that's that's what we're trying to do here with things like cancer. So good luck to your friend. Beth Rademacher, good to see you. Thank you for the super chat. Why is meat the healthiest and best compared to other proteins like eggs? What to look for when buying eggs and butter? Thanks for always answering our questions. Well, no problem. You're very welcome. So, well, just, eggs are great. It's just that some people have, a bit of a sensitivity with them, particularly with the egg whites. They can cause a bit of a reaction in some people. Other people don't have a problem with them. So eggs are great. Eggs have a lot of wonderful nutrients in them, especially pasture-raised eggs. If the chicken's eating what it's supposed to eat, it's going to have, the nutrients that are optimal for it and the eggs. And then just sometimes there's different proteins in egg whites that protect it from bacteria and fungus and things getting into the egg and destroying the yolk and the baby chicken. So that's the issues that some people just have a problem with some of those, and particularly raw egg whites. The yolks seem to be fine, and especially people with autoimmune issues. They're much more likely to react to eggs. And so it's just to be mindful of that. But I sort of consider eggs honorary meat, because it's all the nutrients that you need to then turn into meat, right? It's going to turn into a baby chicken. So it's all the nutrients that are needed for that new life to come into existence. So obviously it's a lot of really good nutrients for us to continue our lives. Because that's the unfortunate reality of this world we live in, which is that animals are heterotrophs, and we have to eat other things to get the nutrients and energy that we need. We can't get it from mineral sources and sunlight. It would be pretty cool if we could. That would make space travel a lot easier, wouldn't it? But unfortunately, something's got to die for us to live, and that's just life. The cycle of death and rebirth, and this is something that people have been in tune with for as long as humans have been humans. And so it's so a bit of a tangent there, but eggs are great. Red meat, is the ruminant meat. They typically, they are able to ferment and break down and the different toxins and extract more nutrients than other animals are, and so they tend to have a higher concentration of nutrients, especially grass-fed and finished ones. They just have a higher concentration of these nutrients. But it doesn't mean, so objectively there's a difference there, but that doesn't necessarily mean the others are bad. It's just some are just the best and some are really, really good. But eggs are really, really good, and so I wouldn't worry about that. For when you're looking for buying eggs, you want pasture-raised eggs. That is supposed to mean that they're actually out on grass eating whatever they eat. Now, they could be given corn and feed and all that sort of stuff, but they're supposed to be given that out on the grass where they could be eating worms and bugs and things like that. And hopefully they are. They, if they're done right in that sort of regenerative fashion where they're out eating bugs and things like that, they're much more nutritious. And I think Joel Saladin talked about his eggs done that way compared to USD eggs. So it was like a USDA egg had something like 41 milligrams of folate in it, but his eggs had over 1,000. So there's a big difference in the amount of nutrients there. So you look for pasture-raised eggs. You get them from a farm that how they raise their chickens, preferably, or have your own chickens that are just eating whatever the hell they find, preferably. And then butter, grass-fed butter. You want to get grass-fed butter, and it's usually going to be a deep dark yellow, and that's going to have a better complement of nutrients as well, and DHA, EPA, and the other fats and cholesterols that you want in a good ratio as well. So that's what you look for. Gage Scott, thank you very much for the super chat. Should I push past the hunger pings, or should I always eat when I'm hungry? Well, it depends on your situation. If you're stuck at work, you don't really have access to something, it's fine to wait until later as long as you're getting enough. If you're getting a lot of hunger pangs, could be that you're just going through withdrawals, and your body's just going, hey, what's going on here? And it's just sort of a bit of a readjustment period. And that should go away. Or it could be that you're not eating enough at the times that you are eating. So when you do eat, just make sure you're eating very fatty meat, and you keep eating until it stops tasting good. And then typically you won't be very hungry for 24 hours sometimes. I often will, if I'm eating enough, I will often eat just once a day. If I'm not eating enough in one go, then that's usually twice a day. But if I get enough, it's just once a day. As long as I'm sedentary. If I'm working out and more active, then that goes up. Then I'll eat 2 big meals, and as opposed to 1 big meal, and then I put on muscle very, very easily doing that. So if it's in the middle of the day and it's not really convenient to eat, then you can wait until you get home or to a situation that's more convenient. But if your body's really telling you to eat meat, you should eat meat. If you get a bit tired and lethargic after you eat a big meal, then just try to eat about half of that. Just sort of take the edge off, and get you through to when you can finish your day and finish your workout if you're working out, and then get to a point where you can eat your fill and not worry about feeling tired or lethargic. And that's pretty much it. But if you're working out and your body's saying, hey, we need more food, or you were a bit underweight to start and your body wants to put on weight, you typically will need to eat twice a day, and a decent amount. I know people that were recovering from anorexia, small women that were recovering from anorexia, that were eating like 8,000 calories a day. And there were still small women at the end of it, but they had put on, good, healthy weight, lean body mass, muscle and bone density, which is very important, because this lady that I interviewed, she named Claire, and people can find that, she was recovering from anorexia, and she had a BMI of 6. She was extremely malnourished. She was vegan and used veganism to hide her anorexia. She said, oh, it's not vegan, I can't eat, so I just won't eat. And so she used that to hide it. And she was very sick, and very, very sick. And excuse me, she was very sick. And when she was recovering, she was eating like 8,000 calories a day. And that's just what her body needed. So just listen to your body, eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good. And when you're hungry, you can eat. If it's inconvenient and you need to eat sometime later, it's okay. Just drink water, and you should be fine. But no, if your body's asking for food, I would give it food. Give it the right food. Give it meat. Lena, thank you very much for the super chat. Carnivore for 6 months, but still see rosacea. Any tips? Okay, so different sort of skin issues can take a while. You really want to try lion diet, just fatty red meat and water. Try to get a lot of fat, like 2 grams of fat to 1 gram of protein. I see that more and more when people are having sort of skin issues, even like acne breakouts, even just like a little spot here and there. And they really up the fat. It actually can help clear up their skin issues. So try that, and try tallow as a moisturizer, just a straight up cooking tallow. Or you can get ones that are prepared and have a bit of other stuff in it to make it easier to spread and so on. From my sponsor for this show is Stone and Spear tallow and skincare. So that should be a link for that in here, and you can buy things there, or you just use just straight up cooking tallow. But they have a lot of good products that are quite clean. I use their soap and their skincare sort of stuff. It's just straight up tallow. It's like unscented soap, tallow soap, and tallow skin moisturizer, body and face, and all that sort of stuff. So that can help. I've certainly seen a lot of people with psoriasis improve that dramatically by putting on tallow, just using tallow as a moisturizer. Either way, like, you will never have better skin than when you use tallow as a moisturizer. It is amazing for the skin. And so, whether you just use cooking tallow or you do stone and spear or whatever, just use animal fat on your skin, and you'll be very happy you did. So there's another question from Lena. Thank you again for the super chat. What's your take on the sun or sunburns on aging skin? Well, I think it's actually important to get out in the sun. We're not troglodytes. We didn't grow up in caves. Like we're terrestrial animals, and just like other terrestrial animals, we were made to be out in the sun. You can definitely overdo it. You can damage your skin, and that can cause burns and all that sort of stuff. But it's so much harder to get burned when you're on a carnivore diet, because you're just bringing in a lot less inflammation. You have ketones that are up, that reduce inflammation even more. Most importantly, you are not eating plant toxins that expressly make you more sensitive to UV light. There are different kinds of toxins that do this. There's an entire class of plant toxin called furanocoumarins, that this entire body of plant toxins, all they do is just damage your body in the sun. And when UV light hits them, they irreversibly bind to proteins and DNA and destroy them and damage them. And this is when you get permanent damage and you get burned, and your skin has to peel off because your body's like, nope, these cells are destroyed. We got to get rid of them. And so that's from furanocoumarins. I mean, you can overdo it and damage your skin to the point of no return, and it just has to slough off. But it's much more difficult when you're eating things with furanocoumarins. You're eating other plant toxins that increase inflammation, but make you light sensitive in particular. You will just burn much more easily because you get much more permanent damage much more easily. And so this is something. This did not just come out of nowhere. This is actually recognized in dermatology. It's called phytophotodermatitis. So phyto coming from plants, photo and the sun, dermatitis, skin damage, right? So you get these plant toxins that combine with the sun to damage your skin and cause a dermatitis. There's celery dermatitis. So celery has these furanocoumarins, parsnips do, all citrus do. So the idea that, well, fruit don't have any toxins is not true. They particularly have heavy in furanocoumarins. This is why you can't take certain medications with grapefruit, because the furanocoumarins in those grapefruit will have to get detoxified by the liver. So, hey, there's that word toxin. It's getting detoxified. Therefore, it is a toxin, right? That's just a definition in terms. And that takes up enzymes that also metabolize certain medications. And so then you run out of that enzyme, and you can't metabolize your medications properly, and you get problems to do with that. And so, thinking about, grapes and avocados, just on the fruit topic, we eat these things. Okay, well, those obviously are good for you. Well, actually, they'll kill cats and dogs. Why do they kill cats and dogs? Because there's toxins in them that are toxic and life-threatening to cats and dogs. So that means there are toxins in it. It just means that we're better able to weather those toxins than dogs and cats are, but there's still toxins in there. So I think it's really important to get out in the sun. I think it's still important to understand what your limits are. But I did a video on YouTube and Instagram talking about the sun and getting out in the sun and all the different benefits of it. The UVA, UVB, they stimulate different biochemical processes in your body. They're actually really important. And so it's good to get out in the sun. And so many people say, hey, I'm a natural redhead, and I've never been able to tan. I've only freckled and burned. And now for the first time, I'm actually getting tan and not freckling or burning. Amazing. And so, it's a very different story when you're eating a proper diet, which again, sort of is further evidence that this is a proper diet. Our body just works better, and you can go out in the sun and you can get much more use out of it. But the idea that we just walk in the sun, we just scorch and burn like vampires, it makes no damn sense. We should be able to be out in the sun and be very healthy, because we need to be in the sun. This is where you get vitamin D. UVA actually stimulates nitric oxide stimulates, goes into your retina, stimulates your brain to grow and make new connections, and can improve our blood pressure, our blood flow, reduce clotting. I mean, it's amazing what the sun can do. Real important tip: your body and UVB stimulates vitamin D, right? Vitamin D gets made on the surface of your skin as a UV protectant. That's your own body's natural UV blocking. And that's another thing too. When you're eating properly and you have and you actually have cholesterol in your body, you can actually make vitamin D and your other hormones, right? Vitamin D is a hormone. And so you make vitamin D on the surface of your skin as a UV protectant. And then it actually takes hours and hours and hours for this to soak in, because you're going out in the morning. Okay, we're going to make some vitamin D now to protect us from the sun all day, because it's expecting you to be in the sun all day. And then sort of 6, 8, 10 hours later, it starts absorbing into your skin and into your body, and you actually start using it as a hormone. And if you go in the sun and you get sweaty and you go take a shower and you wash it off, you'll wash off all that vitamin D. And we've actually known that since the 1920s. We did studies in humans in 1927 where they scraped off the sebum, the oils on the skin that the body naturally produces, where the vitamin D is fat soluble, and scraped that off and gave that to mice with rickets, which is a vitamin D deficiency, cured the mice with rickets, cured the rickets, right? And so it's just like, okay, so that's on the surface of the skin in the sebum, right? So it takes a while to absorb, and some studies have suggested that for full absorption, it can take up to 48 hours to absorb all of that in. So I'm not saying that you don't shower for 48 hours after you go in the sun, but I am saying to try not to shower for a good 6 to 8 hours after you go in the sun, and that can help as well. But you can overdo it. For me, overdoing it was 2 weeks straight near the equator in Australia. In the summer, with my shirt off all day, every day, from dawn to dusk, and at the end of it, I was pretty damn red, and I turned into a tan. But I got a bit of flaking on my nose and on my shoulder tips. That's it, And I put tallow on. I always say, because if your skin's dry, it can actually get damaged more easily. But I put tallow on every single day. I was just glowing. And I kept putting tallow on after that to keep my skin more moist and healthy. And I did a bit of flaking, dry skin, bit on my shoulder tips, bit on my nose, no sunscreen, no sunblock, anything like that, just tallow. And that was being up in Exmouth and Carrigini, which are parts up in northern Western Australia, in the blazing sun in the middle of the summer, and for 2 weeks solid. And that's all that happened. So, it's dramatically different. Okay, let me see here. Okay, a little hello from little Ellie Melly. Very nice to see you, Ellie. And thank you for the super chat. Very sweet of you. Elle says, hello, thank you for everything you do to help me and many others. You're very generous with your time. We all appreciate you. You're the best. Well, you're very sweet, and I appreciate that. And I'm glad that that's helpful. And I'm always glad to help you and everybody else. So thank you very much for that. Very sweet. And Polish Mike. Good to see you, Mike. Plants are trying to kill us. Government is trying to starve us. Animals are trying to feed us. Well, yes, that's true. Shortage of meat and eggs at the Olympics. Thoughts? Yeah, absolutely. It's they're trying to push this sort of agenda on people, and it's game changers can say whatever they say. All the elite athletes, all the elite athletes in the world. I'm sure there are some that are plant-based or eat more plants and veggies and all that sort of stuff. At the Olympics, there's always exceptions to the rule, but even just eating more cleanly and not eating a bunch of junk food is going to be a benefit. I think there's like a fencer that's like plant-based, but that's a skilled position that the person's been doing, working on that skill for their whole life. That's diet has a lot to do with how much dedication and concentration can go into that, but how long have they been plant-based? How long have they been doing that, and how long have they been fencing? Some people are just very skilled at that, but doing long drawn out intensive exercises is different. And so a lot of people at the Olympics, they were just saying, absolutely not, we're not doing this. And so I think the Australian tennis team just said, screw it, we're leaving the Olympic Village, we're not staying here. And they actually went out to just get hotels and get their own food, because they're like, we're not eating this bullshit. And like the heavyweight boxer, I think from Australia as well, dude's like 6'8" and like 110 kilos, and which is like 240 pounds. So trim, taller guy. I'm 105 kilos, I'm 6'3". So it's but that's a big guy. That's a big guy. And they're saying, no, you're limited to 2 chops. That's it. That's all you get. And he's just like, no, I need more than that. And so, the Olympics are getting a lot of backlash for that. And they started, drawing in like thousands of pounds of meat more a day is so because the athletes are just leaving. They're like, we're not staying here. And we're not dealing with these conditions. And apparently, like, the beds are like made out of styrofoam or something like that. They're just like completely uncomfortable and horrible. So they're just like, yeah, we're not living under these conditions. Like, these are the best athletes in the world in their sport, trying to compete against all the other best athletes in the world to see who is the best in this competition. And you can't do that in really crappy situations. You're trying to get the best performance of your life under very subpar conditions. So they're getting a lot of backlash for that, and I think that's good. I think it's good that they're getting public backlash, and people are just saying, no, this doesn't work. Like, we need meat. Like, meat is important, and they're not getting the performance that they wanted. Apparently, like the swimming, they've been getting pretty average sort of times, and people are just not having good performances. They're saying, like, yeah, we don't think it's a slow pool. It's not like it's thick water or something like that. It's just that people aren't able to perform to their best ability because they're getting substandard nutrition. They're getting this ideology foisted on them, and they're not able to perform, and they're pushing back. They're saying, no, we're not doing this anymore. And they're having their own meals brought in, and sometimes they're leaving the Olympic Village and just saying, screw this, we're not staying here. I mean, you look at Lionel Messi, when Argentina, when they won the World Cup, he had shipped in to the World Cup 6,000 pounds of beef, right? Because it's just like, no, we're not taking a chance on not having the right amount of food. 6,000 pounds. I mean, that's a massive amount. I wonder how much of that they used. But you go back to oh God, what was his name? Just one of the world's best soccer players. God, what the hell is his name? I was after Pele, and they're saying, "Oh, this is the next Pele." He's like, "I don't want to be the next Pele. I want to be the next me." Damn it! But he was captain of Argentina. I think they won a couple World Cups, and the same thing. They just brought in thousands of pounds of meat, and they were just grilling up and barbecuing just tons of meat, and that was what they did. I mean, this is the original Olympic Games. That's what they would do. They would just eat tons and tons of meat leading up to it. And then the games you'd win cows and sheep, and that was part of the prizes was more meat. So it's very strange that they're doing this, but it's actually I think it's probably a net positive for the world to see that, try to push this ideology and have it fall flat on its face, so people can just be like, yeah, that doesn't work. And so, hopefully some good will come out of that. But I feel bad for the athletes that have worked their entire life for this and are having their performance, lessened by the poor nutrition that they're being provided at the Olympics. So I feel bad for them, but hopefully they sort that out and people can get back on track. Matt Sherlin, thank you very much for the super chat. Hold on, sorry, I'm just gonna see something here. Um, Maradona. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, thank you for that. Maradona. Yeah, Maradona was captain of Argentina, I think for like 3 World Cups maybe, and he was just a brilliant player. And that's what they ate. You watch the documentary on Maradona, and like when they were going to World Cup and everything like that. That's what they were doing. They just had big chunks of meat on the grill, and they just grill these things up. And they just have a team grill session, every meal. And and they did great. And Messi followed suit and had the same result. And that's obviously there's a lot more that goes into winning a World Cup, but that's a big part. If you're not properly nourished and your body's not working properly, you're not recovering, you're not able to perform at your best. You're not going to do as well as you could have, and that's important when you're playing at that level. So Matt Sherlin, thank you very much for the very generous super chat. I appreciate it. Hi, and thank you. What is the connection between carnivore and reducing heart attack risk? I'm a 50-year-old male, strict carnivore for 6 months, and keep hearing about men younger than me having heart attacks. Yeah, it's very concerning, isn't it? And when you consider the fact that the first heart attack diagnosed and confirmed on autopsy in America was in 1912, and there wasn't a single case reported in the literature confirmed on autopsy of someone dying from a heart attack, then you have to sort of wonder why the hell that is, and why 10 years later became one of the biggest killers, and then a few years after that became the #1 killer in America, even though we're eating the least amount of meat in America than we were in 200 years before or since. And so in the 1800s, we're eating far more meat. Oh, people are only living to their 30s. Well, people in their 30s have heart attacks now. People in their 20s have heart attacks now. My friend, Dr. Ankar Verma, is an ER physician in India, and they eat 3 kilos of meat per person per year on average. And he's seeing 17-year-old vegetarian kids come into the hospital with a heart attack. The hell is that? So people just 17 is not old enough, I guess. It's pretty wild the mental gymnastics that people can do to deny reality in front of their faces. The average life expectancy from birth in 1850 was 38, but the average life expectancy from age 10 years old, if you made it to 10, was 56. So, and when you get to 20, it's 66, and so on. So if you get into adulthood and middle age, you lived as long or longer than people do now. And so it's just that the childhood mortality rate was very high, and early deaths were high because it was a hard life. We have it pretty piss easy now in the West. You go to Bangladesh and go see how they live. Not even in the refugee camps where I was working. Just go see rural Bangladesh or even urban Bangladesh. The vast majority of people are living under very different conditions than we are, and they have life expectancy to compare that to. India, their average life expectancy from birth is around 60 something, right? And they're all vegetarians. Well, wouldn't that mean that being vegetarian is bad? Oh well, but there's infant mortality and there's this and there's okay. So now there's a distinction, but not when it goes the other way. So, why does what's the connection between carnivore and reducing heart attacks? Well, the simple thing is that you're removing out things that can be causative. Cigarettes, smoking, nicotine can cause damage to the artery lining. Diabetes causes damage to the lining of your arteries through glycation. You're going to keep your blood sugar down. You're going to keep your insulin down. And high-fat, meat-based ketogenic diets, like a carnivore diet, have been shown in clinical trials in humans to reverse type 2 diabetes. That's one of the biggest risk factors for developing heart attack and heart disease and stroke. And so that would be diabetes and metabolic syndrome, both of which have been shown to be reversible with ketogenic, high-fat ketogenic diets like a carnivore diet. And people all around the world are reversing their diabetes by going on a high-fat carnivore diet that is ketogenic, and getting rid of seed oils and these things, these industrial products that have never existed in nature ever. And then when you cook with them, they can make trans fats. They can partially hydrogenate, and you make trans fats that are extremely toxic. They don't exist in nature either. And, that's why these things are illegal now, because it's such a high risk of developing heart disease and other sorts of health issues. And when you cook with these plant oils, they can turn into trans fats. So that's not good. You don't want those. But I mean, the plant oils themselves can be harmful as well. So you're just eliminating out all these different things. And so it's an elimination diet. You're just cutting out things that are bad for you. So it's like, what is the connection between, not drinking alcohol and doing drugs and certain health outcomes? Well, you're just not doing drugs and drinking alcohol, which damage your body and can precipitate these health issues. Same thing with carnivore. You're just eating what humans have been eating since humans have been humans. And so your body's just going to work normally, and you're not bringing in all these other sorts of harmful additives. And for those who said that, people died in their 30s, before the 20th century, just remind them that since the 1700s, the minimum required age to run for president of the United States was 35 minimum, right? And you look at all the founding fathers, all these like white-haired old men, usually wearing wigs because they lost all their hair, right? So tell me again how we were only living to be 35 again. So, John Adams was born in the mid 1700s, and he was 92 years old when he died. Jefferson, I think, was 84, and Washington was in his late 60s, and then he caught pneumonia working out in the field and just getting soaked wet, and decided not to change because he didn't want to be late to dinner. He was very punctual. It was just all about gentlemanly manners, and that was very important to him. And it cost him. And he got bad pneumonia, and he got very sick, and he ended up dying probably from all the things that they were doing at the time. All the bloodletting and cupping and all that sort of stuff. And it was weeks and weeks and weeks before he died. But yeah, he unfortunately died. So unless something killed them, they lived to be in their 80s and 90s for centuries. And so and yet there were no heart attacks and strokes confirmed on autopsy in America before 1912. And then in the 1920s, it's massively increased. In the 1930s, it's the number one killer in America, and it stayed that way, and it just sort of kept going up. And now the prevalence and incidence, the new heart attacks, people having their first heart attack, is getting more and more common. So in the liars and people that are trying to purposefully mislead you will use this line, that the cardiovascular mortality rate peaked in the 60s and 70s, and then started coming down right when we started, going away from eating meat and fat and cholesterol, and putting people on statins. But that's not what we said. So the rate, the incidence, the how common heart disease was and how common heart attacks went up, and increased dramatically, actually. And worldwide, deaths have increased dramatically as well. Just in America, the mortality rate, and these are age-adjusted numbers. Always remember that age-adjusted means they've changed the numbers, and you have to sort of say, well, what did you change them to? What are the raw numbers? So don't age adjust them. Why the hell are you age adjusting them? Just tell me how many people have had a heart attack. How many people have died from a heart attack? They don't tell you that. They only tell you the age adjusted. It is almost impossible to find the un-age adjusted numbers. I actually haven't been able to find the non-age adjusted mortality, cardiovascular mortality. I have not been able to find them, and I've had research assistants and other people that have not been able to find them either. It's very difficult. It's almost as if someone doesn't want you to see them. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the prevalence. We're talking about the incidence. We're talking about the percentage of people in society that have heart disease. We're talking about the how many people a year get diagnosed with heart disease. Well, that's just screening. That's just better diagnostics. Okay. What about first-time heart attacks? That's going up too. So the number of people having their first heart attack and surviving is going up. We have better interventions. We have better access to medical care. We have way lower smoking rates. In the 1920s and before, when heart disease almost didn't exist, 80% of men smoked, right? And so now it's far less than that. And yet we have a far higher rate of heart disease and deaths from heart disease, actually, than in the 1920s, when it was 80% male smoking rate. So, I mean, this is back when they were like telling athletes you should smoke because it opens up your lungs and gets your cardiovascular system going. Just crazy. But it is the case that the first people having their first heart attacks is going up. So why is that? Since we've reduced red meat by over a third, reduced fat, saturated fat and cholesterol by the same, increased fruits and vegetables by 30 and 40%, increased heart healthy grains, increased heart healthy unsaturated vegetable oils by over threefold, and replaced these calories that you're missing out from animal fats with plant oils and sugar. And sugar is supposed to be not bad for you. It's not supposed to cause heart disease. But then why the hell is heart disease increasing? Why are people having more heart attacks? Why are people all around the world dying of heart attacks and strokes more than they ever were before? And and those worldwide statistics you can get, and those are increasing. And the deaths from cardiovascular disease is increasing beyond the rate of population growth around the world, right? So you're outstripping just how many people are out there, right? So it's not just raw numbers, it's percentage of the population is going up and up and up. And like I said, in India, they're some of the sickest people and most metabolically sick people. They have some of the highest rates of diabetes. They're all plant-based, right? And the traditional, vegetarian Indian diet, like I said, my friend Dr. Ankur Verma, he's treating 17-year-old kids, vegetarians, that are having heart attacks. 26-year-old lady came in, had a stroke. This is crazy. I mean, you're destroying the potential that this person had for their whole life. You're just destroying an entire life. And then people are just trying, it's the meat. It can't be the meat because, or not the meat alone anyway, because these people don't eat meat. 3 kilos of meat per year. And 20 years ago, they were eating 5 kilos of meat per year, and they were healthier. They're worse now. The diabetes rates in India for these vegetarian population is 25%, and that's in urban and rural areas, right? And that's published in top journals, recent studies published in top journals. 25% of the population is type 2 diabetic. Contrast that with America, when everybody says, America, they're all fat and slobby and junk food and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And Americans are just the least healthy people on earth. The diabetes rate in America is 9%. Diabetes rate in India, where they're vegetarian and all super healthy, is 25%. So why doesn't that show up in the blue zones, right? Why don't we make a movie called The Anti-Blue Zones? You have all these places that go strictly against that blue zone ideology. And blue zones are anti-blue zones too, because they disprove their own theory, because most of them eat way more meat than they said they did. And they lied on a lot of other different fronts as well. But you have an entire subcontinent of India. Look at this little population. How about you look at 1.4 billion people who are largely vegetarian and only eat 3 kilos of meat per year, and see that they're the sickest people on earth? How would you look at that and tell me what you think? Lena, thank you very much for the super chat. If you eat 2,000 calories usually, but burn 2,000 calories as well because you run, would you have to eat some of that back to keep your body healthy, or no? The thing is that your body is way more complex than any simple formula is ever going to figure out. You have to use hormonal, inputs, you have metabolic inputs. Depending on what you eat, you will influence your metabolism in different ways. If you eat glucose, that is, you can use that as energy, and that can stimulate your mitochondria, and it gets used for energy and stored into glycogen, can get stored into fat. If you eat fructose, that largely gets turned into fat and is actually toxic to the mitochondria. So they're both carbohydrates. They both have 4 kilocalories per gram, but they have very different effects. Fructose blocks leptin, upregulates ghrelin. Those are your hunger signals, makes you overeat. It has other sort of hormonal disruptions as well. Glucose will raise insulin. Fructose will raise insulin, but actually it has a lower glycemic index. So it doesn't raise your blood sugar quite as much as fast. And so it won't have as much of an insulin response as fast, but it has other individual hormonal responses as well. And again, blocks leptin, which is satiety hormone, upregulates ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, and will turn into fat largely, and causes other sorts of problems as well. So a calorie is not a calorie is not a calorie. So, we were just saying 2,000 calories and you're burning 2,000 calories. First of all, it's almost impossible to see exactly how much you're burning a day, because you don't know what your basal metabolic rate is. You don't know exactly how much your body is burning. If you're in a ketogenic diet or in a state of ketosis, you actually, studies have shown that you can actually increase your basal metabolic rate by 350 kilocalories. So just by being in a state of ketosis, you will burn energy more efficiently, and you increase your metabolism. So you're burning more energy, as opposed to raising your insulin, which actually depresses your metabolism. It slows your metabolism. So you end up storing more than you would otherwise. And so your basal metabolic rate goes down. And so you're not using as much energy. So it really depends on what you're eating. And just like every animal in the wild, we should be able to instinctually know how much to eat. I've never counted calories. And just even when I wasn't carnivore, I just didn't do it. But I tried to, maybe restrict or something like that if I was trying to lose weight. But, just not eat as much as I was hungry for, if I wasn't working out all that much and didn't want to put on weight, or was putting on weight. But if you're eating what your body's designed to eat, you should be able to listen to your body's signals. And just like every animal, if you look at every animal on Earth, for some reason, when they're eating their natural diet, they just know exactly how much to eat. So you don't see koalas, when they're just eating eucalyptus. Some are just like that bloated with diabetes. Like, well, that one just doesn't have any self-control, or willpower. They just need to understand their calories and their macros and all that sort of bullshit. They don't have calculators, not pulling out calculators to figure out what they're supposed to eat. They just eat. Something tells them to start eating, something tells them to stop eating. And I find that it goes by taste for us. If you eat fatty meat, if you're eating the right stuff, and you eat, which is fatty meat, if you eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good, you don't have to count calories. And you're never going to be able to figure out exactly how much you're burning or doing or using or not using on a day-to-day basis, how much you're actually getting in, how much of that is usable, and what that's doing in different ways. Protein is largely used for structural components. It's not used to build energy. So all that protein, calories, there aren't calories. They're not getting energy from that. So how does that work with the equation? So you just eat fatty meat until it stops tasting good, and your body will figure out the rest, and you'll be fine. If you're eating other things, if you're eating dairy, that can increase your hunger signals. If you're eating carbs, it will definitely increase your hunger signals. If you're eating fructose, it will even more greatly increase your hunger signals. If you're on medications such as prednisone or prednisolone or hydrocortisone, that will increase your hunger signals. So in special circumstances, you may need to sort of play with this and maybe not eat as much as your body's telling you to. But for the vast majority of people, when only eating fatty meat and only drinking water, you should be able to listen to your body and just eat until it stops tasting good. And but you really need to go until you get a bite and it just goes like, that kind of just tastes like cardboard. I'm not too interested in this anymore. And see how you go. And if you're losing more body mass than you want, or you're trying to put on weight and muscle mass, just make sure you're eating enough throughout the day. It's very easy to undereat on a carnivore diet. It's very difficult to overeat because you physically don't want to do it, because it starts tasting bad and you're just going, oh, I don't want to do this. So it's important to at least eat enough and listen to that, and sort of, you have to relearn your hunger signals. So if you're sort of feeling a bit off or low energy or this or something, okay, am I hungry? Or getting cravings, especially for carbs or sugar. Say like, ooh, am I hungry? Is this what hunger feels like? Try eating some meat or eggs. If it tastes good, yes, you're hungry. Keep eating until it stops tasting good, and go from there, and you'll do great. Vom Handes Shepherds Cool. Thank you very much for the super chat. I'm just going to see how many super chats we have here. Ugh. Okay, maybe we'll if anybody has any sort of last minute questions they want to get to, I'll stay until we finish, but maybe we'll close the super chats in about 15 minutes and 10-15 minutes. Yeah, and we'll close it off in maybe 10 minutes. And so anybody has a question, get them in now, and then I'll stay till we finish them up, but then we'll cap them at that because I still have a number to go through. But any questions that people want to get answered on this session, just put them in now, and we'll try to get to them, and we'll cap it in sort of 15 minutes, and not do any more after that. So because I have to get finished up at some point anyway. Okay, so a question from Vom. Thank you very much for the super chat. 63-year-old female with lupus and rheumatoid arthritis was in a walker, terrible pain on methotrexate and prednisone. Stopped all meds. Methotrexate, prednisone. Stopped all meds. Went carnivore on July 1st and in remission. That's amazing. Great job. Really happy to hear that. Triglycerides, I'm assuming 60, HDL 85, LDL 290, CAC score is 5. Doctor freaks out and wants me on a statin. Well, your CAC score is 5. I mean, that's basically nothing. So there's nothing really to get overly concerned about there. You can always check that again in a year or two and see what that's doing. LDL is not a disease. Atherosclerosis is a disease, and your CAC score of 5 shows that you don't really have a burden of atherosclerosis, at least not calcified. Now, that doesn't show soft plaque. That only shows hard plaque. But your triglycerides are very low, which is great. High triglycerides, that can cause disease. That can actually cause pancreatitis. So, that is a problem if it gets too high. Yours is perfect. And your HDL is higher than your triglycerides, which is perfect. And your LDL actually shows that we're just seeing more and more data showing that higher LDL, higher total cholesterol, longer life. And so this is just an absolute con. You've just reversed lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, which I guarantee you your doctor would say is impossible. And yet you've done it just by changing your diet, and you're off medications that can cause serious damage to your body as well. So obviously our paradigm and understanding is wrong. And so you've done something very simple, and you've completely revolutionized your health. Why are we assuming that that's going to kill you by some other means? Those medications can. Those medications can cause serious disruption to your health and metabolism. They can kill you eventually. But that's not what this is. You're just eating real food, and and these diseases are going away. So why are we assuming that doing this and just naturally getting rid of the causes of your lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, why are we saying that is going to then cause heart disease? You're improving. All your health markers are improving. And I would say your LDL is improving as well, because that has never been proven, never been shown to have a causative relationship with heart disease. And you see it right there. Your LDL is 290, which is about 3 times what your doctor probably wants you to be at, and your CAC score is 5. It's nothing. You really don't start worrying about a CAC score until it goes over 100. So if you're really worried, get a carotid Doppler. Get an ultrasound of your carotids. That takes decades to build up. So if you had anything there, it's not just within the last year. That's been there for a long time. But you check that, and you check it again in a year or two. See what happens. It's getting worse. Okay, then we need to figure out what the hell's going on. Stress, bad sleep, other sorts of environmental toxins. Is it your diet? It's not, but that's something that can be then addressed. That's something that's worth addressing at that point. Right now, you have one data point. You have a CAC score of 5, which is nothing to write home about, and you're feeling great, and you've reversed very serious diseases that are debilitating and can be fatal. And so what's the problem? You're doing great. And so you can use this as a baseline. You can check your actual objective markers, or your CAC score, or carotid Doppler, and see what's going on. I have a number of patients that have been reversing their atherosclerosis. This is all anecdotal, but they are reversing it. I had a gentleman in my Patreon, Chip, who had 100% stenosis blockage of his right carotid artery. And a year before he started, a year ago, he was on Carnivore for a year, and now it's patent again. There's blood moving through it. So it's recanalized. It's actually, passing blood now. So that is reversing, right? So that's amazing. And, and statins, you have to wonder about statins because they've never shown a cause and effect relationship between cholesterol and atherosclerosis. So, why are we treating something that's never been proven to be an issue, ever? It's never been proven. And in fact, the only 5 studies that have ever been done, there are randomized controlled trials that could show a cause and effect relationship when they lower saturated fat by replacing it with unsaturated vegetable oils and margarine, and lowered LDL cholesterol. They actually found no benefit by doing this, or in 2 of the larger studies that were better designed, more people died of heart attacks and strokes by doing that. Okay. So they buried them because they knew what that showed. They knew that it showed that the cholesterol theory of cholesterol heart hypothesis was complete bullshit. They disproved their own theory. Ansel Keys was involved in the Minnesota coronary experiment that was the largest and best designed one of these, and they buried it for 40 years. It was only uncovered because the children of one of the original researchers found a box with his old stuff in it, and they found the old data. And so that's the only reason that we have this data. There isn't a single experimental study ever showing a cause and effect relationship between cholesterol and heart disease. And so why are we treating it as if there isn't a single cause and effect relationship? And maybe bring that up to your doctor and just say, how do we know that there's a cause and effect relationship? Have there ever been any causative studies that show a cause and effect relationship? Experimental trials, randomized controlled trials showing a cause and effect relationship. He will say, yes, of course there are, because it would be crazy for them to be doing this sort of stuff if that weren't the case. But it's not the case. And but because we've been taught to treat these numbers in the way that we are, we assume that there must be a good reason for that. But there's that old saying, when you make an assumption, you make an ass out of you and me, and that's exactly what they're doing. And so ask them, is this like, can you show me any cause and effect, randomized controlled trials that show a cause and effect relationship between high LDL and total cholesterol and heart disease? Because you haven't been able to find them, and the only ones you found actually showed the opposite. Like the Minnesota coronary experiment actually showed the opposite. They had 10,000 patients perfectly controlled because they were in institutions, and so they controlled their meals. So it's not like you just go home and report like the nurses study and just say, hey, what'd you eat last year? Absolutely useless study, and it's designed to be useless so that they can manipulate the data and say whatever the hell they want. But when you do a controlled experimental trial with people that you control the meals on it, dead opposite results. And so it is the case that there isn't a single piece of hard evidence to show that cholesterol causes heart disease. And in fact, there are tons and tons and tons of larger and larger studies showing that higher LDL, you live longer. You don't die of cancer as much. You don't die of infectious disease as much. And you don't die of heart attacks as much. So this is just a flat out lie that has been perpetrated and then just repeated so many times that it's just in the dogma. But you ask them for evidence. You say, can you show me a cause and effect study, a randomized controlled trial that shows a cause and effect relationship between LDL cholesterol, total cholesterol, and LDL or total cholesterol and heart disease? They can't do it because they don't exist. The only ones that have been done showed the opposite. So your doctor is very well-meaning, I'm sure, and just hasn't seen the data because, we don't get taught this in medical school, which is a bit of a fraud, honestly. But that's what the actual experimental studies show, is that this is bullshit. So good luck with that. You're doing great. Keep it up. Keep up the good work. Nav, thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, Doc. Any tips for teeth grinding during sleep? I think I might also have sleep apnea, which could cause it. Well, a lot of people reverse a lot of their sleep apnea or improve their snoring and sleep apnea by going carnivore. So, you probably already know that and probably have gotten some benefits from that already. The grinding of the teeth, I don't know. Maybe that you just need like a mouth guard when you sleep, so you're not grinding down your teeth, and that can protect your teeth as well. Other than just doing carnivore and avoiding other things that maybe make things worse, then just throwing a little mouth guard, something like that. Sleep apnea, you need a sleep study test to check that out. And when people go carnivore, it typically reduces a lot of the inflammation in the soft tissue and the soft palate, and so there's more open airways that they can breathe through, and this generally sorts out sleep apnea within a few weeks, actually, of going carnivore. So if that hasn't happened yet, or that has improved but only to a certain degree, then it's possible you could have deviated septum and other sorts of things that could be potentially fixed surgically that could help you breathe better. But sleep study will show that too. So that might be worth getting. Alice Furs, thank you very much for the super chat. Trying to go carnivore to combat severe histamine intolerance. Having allergic reactions to meat, eggs, and dairy. Can you recommend an allergy specialist who's carnivore informed? That's a good question. There are lists of doctors that do ketogenic stuff, like on Dr. Kilt's website. So KILTZ. So his website, they have lists of doctors. I mean, they have to sort of self-sign up. So there's different doctors that sort of sign themselves up. I'm pretty sure I've signed up on that one, but I'm not sure. I've signed up on others. And so you can hopefully find someone on that. It may be that there's an allergist in your area, but that's sort of quite a specific field. But you might be able to find like a primary care physician, like a GP or family practice doctor in your area who is carnivore, keto minded. And the good thing about that is that they generally have networks of people they refer to. And so if they're of that sort of way of thinking, they're going to sort of come up with other sort of people around them in their area, like, around Perth. Like, I know certain doctors that are of that way of thinking. There's something called Low Carb Down Under. The website lowcarbdownunder.com.au has a big list of doctors in Australia that are sort of keto minded, and a lot of those would be carnivore, or at least carnivore friendly, carnivore adjacent, and so you could find different databases like that if you're in. It looks like you're in Australia, so I think that's probably the best way, is the lowcarbdownunder.com.au, and look for a doctor in your area. If there isn't an allergist specifically in your area, try to find a GP, and then talk to them and say, hey, do you know any allergists that are on board with what we're doing here? And they might be able to point you in the right direction, or at least help you search that out. As far as reactions to meat, eggs, and dairy, I would probably start by cutting out the eggs and dairy first and foremost. Try going to red meat. Try to go to meat that has not been aged, and and try to stick with like beef and lamb. Sometimes lamb is a little better for the histamine side of things. They don't hang them after they slaughter them to sort of age them a bit. For lambs, they're usually just left and then just butchered fresh, and so that can be helpful as well. And then you just try different different meats that that you think you can tolerate, and you just stick with the ones that you can tolerate, and you avoid the ones that you don't tolerate. And so it's just a bit of self-experiment and self-selection is pretty helpful there as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then getting a doctor on the low carb down under website that that you can go to and hopefully help you find an allergist. But I don't personally know any allergists in Australia, unfortunately, or maybe anywhere. Yeah, it's a very niche part of medicine, but hopefully there will be one that you can find on low carb down under, or on or one of the GPs can help you. So hopefully, but you can also do just the self experiment, and I would do that too. Most people react, if they're reacting to things, they will often react to eggs and dairy, and then the other non-ruminant meats, so things besides beef and lamb and goat. So I just try doing that. Cut out everything except beef, lamb, and goat if you can get it. I haven't eaten too much goat around here, but you never know. And just go with the meat that you do the best with, and hopefully you can find what works for you, and don't need don't even need to get an allergist, but hopefully you'll find one anyway. All right, good luck with that. Hopefully that helped. Okay, Easy Mode RL, thank you for the super chat. Took me over a year to stop craving tobacco. I think ice cream is going to be the same. 8 months carnivore, mostly red meat and seafood. Thanks, doctor. Well, you're very welcome. Yeah, it can be. Sugar is a drug, and really don't care what anybody says. It is 100% a drug, and by the strictest medical definition of a drug. And and obviously, you can keep those cravings and the addiction for quite some time. Most people find that the cravings go away in 2 weeks or so, but others it can take longer, and then you're just remembering you really enjoyed this thing, and that's the habit side of it that can be quite compelling. If you're getting those cravings at 8 months, then it's almost always the fact that you're not eating enough. And so if you're getting those cravings, just eat more fatty meat, and you'll feel a lot better, and you'll have much less cravings as well. So yeah, very high fat. Eat until it stops tasting good. If you ever get a carb craving or sugar craving, do the same. Eat more meat, eat more fatty meat, and hopefully that helps. Okay. So, Mark Trevathan, thank you very much for the super chat. Hey, Doc, love all that you do. Just wanted to swing by and say you're helping thousands. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Been meat only for 8 months. Been watching you the whole way. Thanks a lot for your hard work. Well, thank you very much, Mark. I really appreciate that, and I'm really glad that you're doing well. It's just sort of you get a lot of grief from people. There's always weird, bizarre ass rumor that I'm not actually a doctor or an MD, which is patently false, and that's a flat out lie and defamation. And I'm actually speaking to lawyers about that, and bringing some suits against certain particular offenders who are saying this and trying to push that around, because it's a lie. That's a flat out lie, and it's a demonstrable lie. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like, I'm an MD from the Royal College of Surgeons. This is a postgraduate medical degree that is internationally recognized and accredited. And it says right there on it, you have different letters that go with different with the same degree in different countries, because that's what they do. But it is an MD. It's the equivalent of an MD in America and Canada and Australia. And it says that. So the Australian government considers an MD, and the American government considers an MD, and the Canadian government considers an MD. So who the hell are these people to say nope, it's not? It's like, well, you're not a governing body, and you're not on the medical board, and you're no one. And so this particular person, Dr. Ed's like, the guy just barely finished intern year. He only just graduated medical school in 2021. and only finished his intern year in December of 2022 and hasn't had a medical license since 2023. So he's not even a practicing doctor. He barely out of intern year, immediately sold out and started doing just TikToks and things like that, and presumably because he couldn't get a real job, and is now bad-mouthing others and spreading misinformation and flat out slander and lies. So it's pretty ridiculous, but it's always nice to see people like you, Mark, who've actually been getting help by this, and it just makes these little idiots meaningless. They can talk all they want, but them saying that I'm not a doctor doesn't actually take away my medical license, and anybody can look that up. You go to Australian APRA, AHPRA, so the licensing body here in Australia, and you just look up, I'm registered medical practitioner with no with no marks against me, with an unrestricted license. So there you go, and I'm currently in practice. And he is not. You go onto the UK medical registry. He is not licensed. He does not have a medical license. He's registered with the medical board. He has no license, and so he's going around. Like, people in glass houses really shouldn't throw stones. He's going around saying that other people aren't doctors, and he literally is not a practicing physician, and he barely finished his intern year, and he's going around critiquing people like Andrew Huberman, who's a professor of medicine at Stanford, and saying that he shouldn't be going around giving advice on dermatology because he's not a dermatologist. And I swear to God, he said this. It says just like, even with his years of experience, he would never make a video like that because he's not a dermatologist. What years of experience? He hasn't had years of experience. He's had 1 year of experience as an intern, which, I'm sorry, is just a glorified secretary and phlebotomist, especially in the UK. All you're doing is just all the work that the nurses don't want to do, and you get stuck with. And you're not a practicing physician, and you don't have years of experience as a practicing physician. And if you're talking about your years of medical school, sorry, you don't get years of dermatology in medical school. It's like a 1 week sometimes module, and you're trying to say that you have years of experience more than Andrew Huberman, who is a professor of medicine at Stanford, who teaches medicine to doctors, and you have more experience than him. Probably not. That actually is especially his things titled Andrew Huberman going outside of his expertise or field of expertise, something like that. No, that is his field. He is a professor of medicine at Stanford. He teaches medicine, and that's exactly what he was doing, and that's exactly what he does. So it's it's narcissistic behavior with delusions of grandeur. He thinks that he's the authority on everything. He can talk about things that Andrew Huberman can't, and he can decide what Andrew Huberman gets to talk about or not, even though he's not even a practicing doctor and hasn't had a career as a doctor ever. He just had an intern year, and then who knows if he even practiced after that, but he hasn't had a medical license since 2023. So he had a medical license for less than a year after his internship. And so, and now he's saying that, he gets to overrule the American Medical Association, Medical Board, the Canadian Medical Board, the Australian Medical. I had that confirmed by APRA, by the Australian licensing body, because someone else tried to say, "Oh, you're not allowed to use MD," and they brought it up with APRA, and APRA said, "Yeah, no, he is. Go away." And so that's been confirmed by the Australian Medical Board that's perfectly fine. And the suggestion that I'm not an MD, what people take that to mean is that I'm not a doctor, that I didn't go to a medical program, that I did like some certificate course and or like an EMT or something like that. That's what him saying that has led people to believe, which is funny because he calls himself board certified in lifestyle medicine, but lifestyle medicine isn't a board certified specialty. I spoke with the British Association of Lifestyle Medicine, and they said specifically they don't offer a board certification. They offer a certificate, right? So this is like, it's like anywhere from 20 to 40 hours of online independent work that you do. Sometimes you do a test, sometimes you don't. And I think the largest one was like 100 hours of online work. So it was just, it's nothing. You can pound this out in a few weeks, and as a result, he's saying that he's board certified in something, which is completely misrepresenting his credentials, because what board certified means to the entire world is that you finished a specialty training program, and then you're a consultant or you're an attending and a specialist in a certain field. He's saying he's board certified. He's not board certified. There's no board certification. So he's leading people to believe that he's a trained specialist when he's barely out of intern year. And there are no board certifications for lifestyle medicine. So he's being extremely misleading. And basically just did a certificate course in this, is now trying to say that he's board certified. So it's pretty ridiculous. But thank you, Mark, for that. It's nice to see people actually being helped, and that definitely helps sort of ignore the idiots out there, and just work on what matters, which is helping people. So thank you for that. Miss Ann Thorpe says, my coworkers all think I'm nuts and going to die of a heart attack. Meanwhile, 40 pounds gone, BP meds gone, anxiety and depression gone. Well, that's fantastic, Ann, and that's a perfect add-on to this. Thank you so much for that. That's really good to see. It's just, this works, and people actually get help by it. And so who cares what anybody else has to say? Thank you for that. Lynette Inglis, thank you for the super chat. Looks like your question is down here. Our daughter has suspected MS and also on a waiting list for a gallbladder problem as possible gallstone. How does she start carnivore? Well, specifically for the MS, it's a good idea to get on a lion diet. So just red meat and water. Anybody with an autoimmune issue like MS is always going to do best on just red meat and water. So beef, lamb, and water. A lot of fat, especially for MS, because that's a demyelinating disease of the axons and the nerves that come down from the neurons, and so that's really important. Those are made out of fat and cholesterol, and so you need fat and cholesterol, and you want to be in ketosis too, because ketones cross the blood-brain barrier, reconstitute into fatty acids, and they make up the physical structures of your brain. And so you need enough fat, you need enough ketones, you need enough B12. Almost everybody's low on B12. I'm assuming that the New Zealand units are the same as Australian, pretty damn sure. And the reference range can go from anywhere from like 130 to 130 to like 650, 700, 800, sometimes 1,000, but rarely. So what the hell is it? Where do you want to go? Well, and it's way above that. Anything below 400 can actually cause nerve damage and demyelinating on its own, even without MS. And so if you have MS and you're trying to recover from these lesions and repair the physical structures and the myelination of your axons, you need B12, you need folate, so you need liver to make sure that you're getting enough of this, because you're just going to be low on this. So for her, I would go on a ruminant diet, so beef and lamb, and have a bit of liver, just 50 grams a day for several weeks, and you can bring that down to 3 days a week if you want to. Check the B12. Check the folate. You'll have plenty of B12 and folate on if you're having liver. Most people have plenty of B12 and folate just on the red meat, but make sure, because depending on the quality of meat that you're getting, it's going to have more or less B12 and folate in it, and so you want to make sure you get enough. And there's definitely enough in liver of all descriptions, and so check it again. What you want to aim for B12 is between 800 and 1200. That's what we typically use as a reference range for optimal in our patients. So that's what I would look at, and I would make sure that I would just do fatty red meat and water, lots of fat, be in ketosis, just the red meat predominantly, and make sure you're getting enough B12 and vitamin D. You should be getting enough from the fatty meat, grass-fed butter. I'd avoid other dairies though, butter being the only thing, or grass-fed ghee if she has a problem with butter. And dairy can definitely trigger autoimmunity and MS as well. So avoid those, and avoid eggs too. Just red meat, and grass-fed butter or grass-fed ghee is okay as long as it's okay with her. And see how you go, and just get a lot of fat, a lot of vitamin D, a lot of B12. Check your B12 and B12 and vitamin D. Vitamin D, you want to be between 140 and 180, and a little above that is probably fine too. Up to 250. I've seen studies saying that that's perfectly fine. Even in cancer patients, you try to get that up to 220, for instance, and that can help. So that's what I would do. Good luck to her. And she can just sort of jump in. She doesn't have to like ease into it unless it's hard for her and she wants to ease into it. I'd go ketogenic straight away, no sugar, get some liver in her, check the B12, and so on. But if she's able to, willing and able, can just jump right in, I'd just jump right in and just go straight into it. Just cut all the garbage out. Just go beef, lamb, and water with a bit of liver, and she'll do well. There are a lot of people putting their MS into remission. We just heard from a lady who put her lupus and rheumatoid arthritis into remission without medication, which is astounding. There are tons of people who do it with MS in particular too. Maybe somebody in this chat watching this video has done that. So if anybody has had their experience, please do share your experience with the carnivore diet and MS in particular, but any autoimmune issues as well, because that's very helpful, and hopefully let you and your daughter see that. So good luck with that, and good luck to her. I hope she does really well. Jeff Hardy, thank you for the super chat. 48-year-old male, no type 2 diabetes. Thanks, Carnivore. On the 1st of January this year, triglycerides are high. Last week went to the ER with pancreatitis. Wow, okay, so triglycerides passed 4,200. 2 days later, 350. Is carnivore safe for me? Carnivore is vital for you, because carnivore is going to reduce your triglycerides. Your triglycerides can go up for other reasons, but you're at least eliminating out some of the causative factors of triglycerides, like sugar, things like that, sugar, carbs, alcohol, these sorts of things. And so those are major issues with triglycerides. Stress can jack up your triglycerides. Poor sleep can jack up your triglycerides. So those are very important to address as well. 4,200, that's abnormally high. And so, there's probably something else going along there with it. But but carnivore, I think it would be very important, because and please, people do share in the comments, in the live chat and in the comments as well, what your triglycerides has done. People invariably see, as long as they get their stress and their sleep on point as well, their triglycerides come down massively and their HDL go up as well when they go on a carnivore diet. There are a few odd people that still have triglycerides of like 200, 300 or something like that when they go on this, but these are the people that are super high stress, very poor sleep, all that sort of stuff. And then when they get out of that stressful situation, be able to fix their stress and their sleep, that just comes right down. So it's you're not going to get 4,200 from something like that. I mean, I've never heard of anybody in extremely stressful situations or poor sleep getting that. There's something else going on there too, but it's not carnivore. Yeah, I do think carnivore is safe in this circumstance. I think it's actually probably going to really be helpful, because it's going to eliminate out a lot of the causes of high triglycerides and should help lower your triglyceride levels as well. So good luck with that. That's quite scary, but I'm glad you're doing better. Good luck. Lisa C, thank you very much for the generous super chat. It's very kind of you. Thank you, Dr. C. In honor of your amazing sister, Rosalind, will you please say some encouraging words to my sister, Amy, who is 5 weeks into carnivore? Thanks again. Well, thank you very much, Lisa. I appreciate that. And you are welcome. Amy, congratulations. Good. I'm really glad that you started Carnivore. It's it takes a lot of courage to try to change uh, change your diet dramatically and try something new. Hopefully you're feeling better, but like so many other people, this is something that can really revolutionize your life and your health and improve things in many ways. So just keep going with it. You're sort of getting into that really sweet spot where you're got all this garbage out of your system, and you start feeling better and better and better, and your body composition is going to start changing more rapidly. You're going to start feeling better and better. You're going to have less and less cravings. If you do have cravings, just eat more fatty meat. And and so you're going to be getting into some of the more exciting times of going carnivore, which is just going to feel like a superhuman, better than you ever have in your life. So it's going to get better and better from here. So that's something to look forward to. Make sure you're eating enough. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Make sure you're addressing stress as well as you can, and you should be doing better and better as you go. I'm just going to do one thing. Sorry, the cat wants to go out. I'm just going to let him out real quick. Okay. So so hopefully that's encouraging. But but seriously, like you're getting into the most beneficial time, or the most dramatically different time, where you just see these massive changes in your body and in your health, and so it's a very exciting time. So I'm sure you'll just get sort of be really excited with how you go. I think there was something in the chat about wanting a childhood story about me and Roslyn. I can't really think of any right now. I probably need a subject to remind me of something, but I can't think of anything in the moment. But if I think of something appropriate to share with the public, then I will do that. But either way, good luck with that, and I'm sure you'll do great. So, question from John Bassett. Thank you for the super chat. Question is down here. It says, I was planning to ask how to reduce triglycerides on carnivore. 2 months in, and they keep rising. A1C remains at 5.5. So so the only times I really see that are when people are not getting adequate sleep. They're averaging less than 7 hours of sleep a night. You're doing that consistently. If you average 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night for just 7 days in a row, you will give yourself diabetes, or pre-diabetes, I should say. But getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep after that for at least 7 nights can actually reverse that. So sleep is extremely important. Also stress. So your stress levels can be very important for your triglycerides as well. And it can give you sort of a derangement to your cholesterol panel. So you can get high triglycerides, low HDL, and you can get that pattern B type of LDL, which isn't great. Is that causing a problem? I doubt it. But it's I think more of this is smoke and not the fire. It's a sign that something else is going wrong in your body, and so other damage can happen. So it's important to address all of those things, and if you're able to address the stress and address the sleep properly, you should start to see your triglycerides start to come down. And again, when it can give you pre-diabetes if you're not sleeping properly and you're getting stressed, and that will affect your A1C. I wouldn't worry too much about the A1C, because that's sort of a really blunt instrument. It's it presumes that your red blood cells before were living 3 months, where they could have been living 2.5 months if you were less healthy, and it's presuming that they're still only living 3 months, where they could be living 3.5, 4 months because you're more healthy. So you're just sort of comparing apples and oranges. I would more go on your daily blood prick levels, and see how your actual blood sugar is doing. And so HbA1c is more of a marker for doctors to sort of see, like, are you really keeping your blood sugar under control? Oh yeah, no, I check it all the time. It's in the 80s, and it's like, is it though? Because compliance is an issue, and people misreporting what their findings to their doctor is a real thing. So it's important to sort of have something that they can gauge this. But for your purposes, since you don't need to lie to yourself, and you're not going to fool yourself too far, you want to check your blood sugar. And if your blood sugar is just 75, your HbA1c is not indicating what your blood sugar actually is on average. So I wouldn't worry about it. But if you are stressed out and you are raising your cortisol, you will be raising your blood sugar as well, and that can raise your A1C. And so just be mindful of that. So that's what I would address is the stress and sleep. Those are most commonly the problem when people have stubborn triglycerides early on. Good luck with that. It's a question from EAR, so ear. Dr. Chaffee, I'm a 43-year-old male with thalassemia minor. I've lived with this my whole life. Haven't had much issues, some fatigue sometimes. New to carnivore 40 days in. Can going carnivore help or hinder this? It's not going to hurt it. I have a number of patients with thalassemia, various thalassemias, and they all do fine. It's, remains to be seen how much that affects it. And from a positive manner, I've certainly on serial bloods, I've never seen it get worse. I haven't seen some of them get a bit better. Didn't like to just completely resolve it, but they, some of them were less anemic, or had, some were like borderline anemic, and now they were less borderline anemic, those sorts of things. I don't think it's going to completely do away with the thalassemia. It's certainly not going to hurt it though. And can potentially help, because you're just getting all the different sorts of things that you need. If you don't have enough B12, you're not going to be making your blood cells as well anyway. Almost everyone is low on B12. You don't have to have zero B12 to start getting too low blood levels. I see people that have their B12 level of 300-400 and even 500, and they're just sort of slightly lower on their blood numbers. Then you fix their B12, and all of a sudden just pops right back up. Great. So the people weren't necessarily floridly anemic, but you don't need to be. You just need to have less than your body actually wants. And if you have something like thalassemia, obviously you're working behind the 8 ball anyway, and so you just need to optimize things. So it's not going to hurt. It's definitely not going to hurt. And it can definitely help as well. And just by simply getting all the nutrients that you need, even if it does nothing else, that's still going to improve things. So good luck with that. Lena, thank you for the super chat. What's the science behind more fat shaping women's body differently? Does this only happen if you gain weight in general? Just trying to understand that question properly. The science behind more fat shaping women's body differently. I'm guessing what you mean. There's like different fat distributions on male and female bodies, and how that affects things. Well, there's different hormones that can affect that. Cortisol can affect things differently. You sort of get that central adiposity, and then if you have different amounts of testosterone or estrogen, you can deposit fat in different areas. And this is typically why you see sort of different fat distributions on men versus women, and that's for hormonal reasons. But I'm trying to understand, does this only happen if you gain weight in general? I may not be understanding your question completely, but there are different distributions, fat distributions in men and women, and different sort of hormonal patterns. And so, if you see someone sort of depositing fat in a certain way, it could be because they have too high of cortisol. It could be that they have something else that's going wrong. And so, but at the end of the day, when you're just eating fatty meat and only drinking water, your body's going to normalize your hormones. And for any person, so men and women, it's not just going to give you a whole bunch of testosterone. It's not going to just give you a whole bunch of estrogen. It's going to optimize your hormones for you as an individual. Whatever your genes and genetics dictate is optimal. And so that should go with weight loss and gain too. You should sort of lose these stubborn areas of fat. Sometimes it takes a bit longer than others, and then exercising is very important too. Okay, so Lena's saying, because I hear the more butter you eat makes you have bigger proportions on a woman. I haven't heard that. I don't know why that would be one way or the other. I mean, if you're eating more fat in general, you're going to improve your hormones in particular, and so that could help. The different hormone distribution that we have dictate our secondary sexual characteristics, such as the sort of broader shoulders in men and the narrower waist. We're getting that V shape. Vitamin D is very important for that. So if you don't have enough vitamin D during adolescence, men will have more trout shoulders, and women will be more stick-like as well. So they won't have that curvy hourglass figure that's the classical, female form. That's vitamin D. That's and hormones. So it's vitamin D is a major part of that. Vitamin D is a hormone, and so when you're eating enough fat and you're getting enough cholesterol and you're getting enough hormones, you're going to vitamin D, and then you're going to distinguish out into those forms. How much does that help when we're an adult? Not as much as when you're an adolescent, because your bones are solid now, and so you might put on little bits of fatty deposits and muscles and this and the other, but the hips and the structures of the waist and all that sort of stuff are already formed and probably not going to change all that much. But you never know; it could change a little bit anyway. But the bones aren't going to really change if the growth plates are closed. But it's probably a hormonal thing, with the butter. But that's just going to be fat in general, and you just want enough hormones. And so, as far as fat deposition, I mean, it's just got to help you just put on healthy weight in general. And sometimes people are underweight and they don't have enough fat. You do need some subcutaneous fat that's actually healthy. And so eating those sorts of things can just get you the right amount and the right proportions, hopefully, and getting enough butter and enough fat is important to do that. So hopefully that sort of answered your question, but I still feel that it probably didn't, but hopefully it did. And then Top Show 7 again. Thank you for the super chat donation to get sent by Chaffee, Meat Directorate, Sure M7, MV7, and Mike. Yeah, I'll look into that. But thank you for that. Hugh Thomas, thank you for the super chat. Potassium on Carnivore, how can one get 4,500 milligrams in the RDA? Well, first of all, is the RDA actually something that we need to worry all that much about? Probably not. The RDAs came up at a time when everyone was eating a mixed diet, and so you don't actually know, because you get all these anti-nutrients that bind to minerals and electrolytes, and you have you have excessive insulin resistance. That's going to make you that's going to change the amount of electrolytes that you need to store onto, all these different sorts of things. So you get plenty of potassium. Like, I've never seen anybody have consistently low potassium. I saw one guy who checked his potassium. He was completely fine, had no symptoms, and his potassium was just very slightly lower than the reference range. I just said, "Oh, look, just check it again. It just could be a lab error." Checked it again, right in the middle of the range. So, who knows what that was about? But it went away anyway, and he was asymptomatic. So I don't see people actually getting low potassium, and so I don't think you necessarily need to chase that number. What you need to do is check your own potassium. And if you're low on potassium, get more potassium. The different organs have more nutrient density, and blood products have a lot of potassium electrolytes in them as well. And if for some reason, like when you're first going on a carnivore diet or any sort of ketogenic diet and your insulin starts going down, you can spill out more electrolytes than you would before, and so your body needs to readjust it. So sometimes you get a bit of electrolyte disturbance early on, but that typically normalizes. And but just check, if you're early on in the game and you're sort of spilling out a bit more electrolytes than your body wants, then you might take some potassium salts and things like that, and some of the electrolyte supplements. But typically people don't need to do this long term. I've never taken those things. I know the majority of people don't take those things. Sometimes we'll get, the keto flu. Some people think that that's, sort of low electrolytes causing a bit of low blood pressure and feeling a bit gross because of it. And it goes away. I mean, people talk about the keto flu lasts about 2-3 weeks. Okay. So if that is an electrolyte disturbance, it's only lasting 2-3 weeks. And so just check. If you have normal potassium, then however much you're getting is how much you need, because you're right in the right range. So don't worry about it unless you are out of range. Supplement if you have to, especially in those early days when your insulin is adjusting down and your kidneys are compensating for that now reduction in insulin, which it will do because it had to compensate it for in the other direction. It had to compensate it when your insulin was going up. We weren't born with high insulin. We weren't born with insulin resistance. And so over years and decades, your kidneys were able to adapt and adjust to the excessive amounts of insulin. And that's why it's now overcompensating. So then you let the air out of the tires with the insulin going down, and now you're sort of overcompensating, and your body has to readjust, and it will. And most people it takes about 2-3 weeks. And so, yeah. So don't worry about it unless there's something to worry about. Shannon Thomas Trucking, thank you very much for the super chat. It's very generous of you. My friend was told she has non-small cell lung cancer. Very sorry to hear that. They've told her that it is terminal and have her on prednisone, causing massive weight gain even when she doesn't eat. Can fasting and carnivore reverse all this? Well, cancer is an extremely dangerous and deadly and nasty disease. Even doing everything as best that we can and fasting and doing carnivore and ketogenics and things like that, sometimes it's not enough. And, there is a point of no return. But there are a lot of people finding that they are significantly improving their health issues. There have been studies on non-small cell lung cancer and ketogenic diets. I'm nearly 100% sure, just going back to that lecture I gave, I think that was some of the studies I came across were for non-small cell lung cancer. And so it's definitely worth a shot. The prednisone is, it's a double-edged sword because it's reducing the inflammation and allowing their breathing to be easier. But what it's doing also is causing diabetes and massively increasing her blood sugar and feeding that cancer and making that cancer much more aggressive. And it's also suppressing the immune system, which fights the cancer. So this is sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, is that she's on those medications to sort of help her symptomatically, but they're accelerating her demise, unfortunately. So it just depends on how much left she has in her, how much she has in her to fight this. If she comes off the prednisone to get her blood sugar under control and she can fast and eat carnivore and ketogenically, and potentially address the glutamine action with different sort of medications. The press pulse method that Professor Seyfried has outlined in several of his papers, and another paper that I'm actually a part of that will be coming out shortly, and that I talk about in the my talk on ketogenic metabolic therapy for cancer, and in our interview with Thomas Seyfried. We talk about all this. I think it can definitely help, and I think it can definitely help her feel better and get more out of this, and be healthier for longer. And I can't say that it's going to reverse all this. I can't say that it's going to fix her. I can't say that she's going to be able to put this into remission, but I can tell you that others have, and that they are still fighting this. I mean, you just have to sort of assume that this is always going to be going on in your body. You really can't stop. And so, if she tries it, I think it's well worth trying. It's, nothing else is really going to do much. I mean, they've already given up on her and said that she's terminal. And so they're putting on palliative measures and just giving her a whole bunch of prednisone, which is just going to jack up her blood sugar and accelerate this. Cancer cells require 400 times the amount of blood sugar as normal cells. And so, you want to do everything you can to keep that blood sugar levels down, not up, because you do a PET scan, you inject radio-labeled glucose, and you see where that goes, and you see ... Oh, that's where all the cancer cells are sucking up all that glucose. So that's what's happening when her blood sugar is high. It's just feeding those cancers, and they're lighting up. So remember that PET scan. Anytime you have a bagel or a piece of bread or have your prednisone jumps up your blood sugar, you really want to keep that down, because you're just stuffing energy into these cancer cells, which is exactly the opposite of what you want to do. So I'm really sorry for your friend. That's a very difficult place to be in, especially because sometimes, the breathing is so hard that they really can't go off the steroids. And that's really tough. And, it's like for brain cancers, brain tumors, you get a lot of swelling and edema. You have to go on steroids. You have to, because the edema can kill you. Then you do the surgery, you cut out the tumor, and then you have them on steroids for another, several days in a weaning dose. And then you come off of them. When that swelling's down, you've taken out the tumor. So now it's not causing swelling anymore. So you can get them off the steroids. You don't keep them on for very long, if possible. And then you do radiation that causes more swelling. So you put them back on steroids, and then you're sort of going down that rabbit hole. But it's something that in certain circumstances, when you have brain edema or you have so much edema in your lungs that you can't breathe, that sometimes these are necessary evils. And the fasting and carnivore diet, being at least ketogenic, so you're not adding fuel to that, I think is definitely going to be a net positive. And hopefully it reduces the swelling down enough as well that she can come off the prednisone and not be so horribly symptomatic that she's miserable or putting herself in danger of respiratory failure. Hopefully that's the case. And if it is, and she can really attack this with, getting her GKI below 2 or below 1, if possible, with a combination of a ketogenic carnivore diet, liver, organs, some restricted eating, and some fasting, hopefully that is enough to start turning the tide back the other way. There are people who have done that, and it's a growing body of them. And there's a growing body of experimental literature of randomized controlled trials and interventional trials that may be, controlled but not randomized, self-selected trials, etc., that are doing extremely well. And there are more and more of these studies showing that. So good luck to your friend. Hopefully she gets a lot of improvement by going carnivore. Hopefully she's able to get off the prednisone, and hopefully she's able to turn this around. And I think we're all praying for her. So good luck with that. Good luck to her. And have her watch and you watch my videos on ketogenic metabolic therapy, and my interview with Professor Thomas Seyfried, Seyfried. Those are very important ones to know about. Good luck. Nick Buis? Nick, anyway, thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, Dr. Chaffee. Thanks for all you do. What's your take on iodine supplements on a carnivore, ketovore? I hear seaweed and yerba mate are good sources. Well, seaweed probably is because it comes from the ocean. I have no idea about yerba mate, but fish, just seafood in general, has a ton of iodine. And depending on where your livestock roams and grazes, have plenty of iodine in the soil there too. They need iodine too. They have thyroids as well, so they need to get this stuff in them also. So it's likely that you don't need it. I think with any supplementation, you only supplement if you aren't getting enough from your diet. Be it that you're eating grain finished, factory farmed meat that isn't as nutritious as it could be, or you have a particularly high demand for some of these things, or your animals that you're eating just come from a place that have low minerals in that area, in the soil. For whatever reason, you just check. So you just check your iodine levels. If you have good iodine levels, well, you don't need to supplement. If you are low, then sure, be more conscious of that. Add in seafood, just add in fish a couple times a week. Add in, some oysters, things like that, some shrimp, those sorts of tons of iodine in shrimp. And so, just big buttery shrimp, just a big tub of butter and put a whole bunch of, fried shrimp in there. Great. Or you pan fry them, you can boil them, whatever, however you like to cook shrimp. Just put in a lot of butter and you'll get plenty of good nutrients and iodine. You get tons of iodine in that. You can also just take the Lugol's drops if you want to do any of that. I wouldn't do the seaweed or the yerba mate because I don't do plants. But you could do that, but you're going to get the bad with the good. You're going to get all the other plant toxins that go along with the seaweed and yerba mate, along with the iodine. And there are plenty of other sources of iodine, just such as any other seafood. Any other animal that lives in the ocean will have a ton of iodine in it because there's a ton of iodine in the ocean. So that'll be fine if you just do it that way. Julie Halabi, thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, should I cut out heavy cream? Will it make me gain weight? Thank you. Yeah, dairy in general is a classic weight loss stall and can make you gain weight. There's some people that add dairy back in and they start seeing their weight sort of go up or hit a weight loss stall. So yeah, I mean, if you're concerned about weight gain and you want to continue weight loss, then I would cut out all dairy, including heavy cream. There are different chemicals and compounds in dairy that just encourage baby mammals to eat more, and so that deranges your hunger signals. So you end up eating more than you need to, and so you can overeat. Especially when you're deranging your hunger signals. If you're just eating fatty meat, you don't derange your hunger signals, and you can actually listen to them. But you add in dairy, you add in heavy cream, that can throw that off, and so you can't really listen as well to your hunger signals as you would be able to before. So yeah, it could. It depends on how much heavy cream you're using. If you're just using a little bit in a recipe or putting it in some eggs or something like that, it's probably not that big of a deal. But if you're responding negatively to it, especially if you have autoimmune issues or inflammation issues, probably good to avoid that. And then and if you're sort of hitting a weight loss stall, or maybe putting on a bit of weight, cutting out the cream and dairy is definitely a good thing to first step anyway, to try to see what difference that makes. Definitely. So yeah, give it a try, see how you go. And I rarely have any dairy. It might be a bit of cheese melted onto meat, or mixed in with some melted in with some scrambled eggs or something like that. But it's so rare that I do that anyway. So I would just I would try to cut that out and just see how you go with just fatty meat and water. You'll always do best on just fatty meat and water. Butter, usually people do fine with butter, but you can even try that without and try adding it back in and see how you go as well, just to see how you do. And good luck with that. Grace Vanderbergen, thank you very much for the super chat. Our 40-year-old friend died this week. Oh God, I'm very sorry. Obesity, diabetes, etc. Could end-stage diabetes affect behavior and personality? What can people look out for? And can it be reversed at the later stages? It can definitely be reversed at the later stages. I mean, there's such a thing as damage done. And so, if you've done serious damage to yourself, can you undo all of that damage? Maybe, maybe not. Depends. Can it affect your behavior and personality? Well, yeah, but in a lot of ways, it can, it can just make you feel unwell and tired and stressed out. And when you're in that sort of scenario when your just life is pain, that changes your outlook, and it changes how you respond to other people as well. And so, if your friend died at 40, I mean, they were in a really bad place for quite some time, and being in pain for that long can be very difficult. And so that can definitely change your behavior and your personality. There's also the case that it affects your brain chemistry as well. And you can get insulin resistance of the brain. This is now why Alzheimer's is being called type 3 diabetes. And so if you're not getting enough energy to your brain's not functioning the way it should be, you're not getting enough cholesterol and fats, your brain is atrophying and not being able to rebuild and repair itself properly, then yeah, that can change these, your behavior as well, and your memory and cognition and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, you can definitely reverse diabetes. You can definitely reverse type 2 diabetes and even very serious end stage sequelae of type 2 diabetes or even type 1 diabetes when you get better control. Dr. Gary Feck, he showed this. He's an orthopedic surgeon, and he did amputations for diabetics. And so he's cutting off feet and toes and legs and things like that, which is really nasty surgery to do. It's not a fun surgery, for the doctor as well as the patient. It's pretty jarring to actually sever limbs and hear that limb just clunk flunk into a trash can. It's just like, goodness, it's a pretty startling thing to have to do. And but he found, that's what he found, low carb carnivore diets as well, is because he could reverse people's diabetes, and he was making it so people didn't need to get amputations anymore, or at least significantly reduce the extent of their amputations. So this can reverse a lot of serious end stage damage. I speak to a lot of ophthalmologists who are discovering ketogenic carnivore diets, some who have been using it for well over a decade, and reversing diabetic retinopathy, reversing macular degeneration. These are things that aren't supposed to be reversible, and yet they are. And even in some cases, reversing or mitigating cataracts and improving cataracts. That's not supposed to happen. None of this is supposed to happen, and yet it's happening. And kidney disease, diabetic nephropathy, that's one of the leading causes of chronic kidney disease. That's reversing. People are reversing and improving their kidney function by going on a ketogenic carnivore diet. So yes, you can reverse a lot of damage that you do to your body by changing your diet like this. There's going to be some damage done. Like Gary Feck, he found you could reverse some issues to the point that you didn't need amputations, and other times you needed some amputation but just not nearly as much. Okay, so that improved a lot, but there was some permanent damage done. So something to remember: there can be permanent damage done, but your body can heal from so much. It can recover from so much if you give it the right materials and you put it in the right positions and you get rid of all this poison that we're dumping in our bodies. I'm very sorry to hear about your friend. Hopefully other people can use his life and his unfortunate death as an example on how to not do that and how to improve their lives so that they don't have to go through and suffer the way that he did. And I'm very sorry that that happened, and I'm sorry that they weren't able to, come around to this and fix it before it was too late. Nav, thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, Doc. Any tips for teeth grinding during sleep? I might have sleep apnea, which could be the cause. I think we saw this earlier. Maybe that got repeated, or maybe you just got impatient with me and asked it again. It happens. But I think we already sort of addressed that. So we go back to that answer. Basically, wear a mouth guard and get checked for sleep apnea on a sleep study to see what's going on. Maybe get somebody to look up your nose and see if there's a deviation in your septum to see if that might be able to be fixed and help your sleep apnea or snoring as well. And good luck with that. Rick Diaz, thank you very much for the super chat. Carnivore for 6 months, down 35 pounds. I'm 47. Still high blood pressure, 160 over 110. My doc wants to put me on amlodipine until root cause is found. Should I fail and take it? Well, first of all, congratulations. That's absolutely fantastic. That's a huge amount of weight loss. And I'm sure a lot of other health issues have been improved as well. I would absolutely agree with your doctor on this, that, and it is important, to take, the advice of your doctor way more seriously than you do internet doctors, right? Because I don't know your full history. I haven't done physical exams. We haven't spent hours and hours talking to each other over years to know, your specific details. I can only speak in generalities, and I can only speak about, what the data shows on the aggregate and what my experience has shown in my individual patients and what we've seen, and talk about different mechanisms. But, at the end of the day, getting personalized healthcare is really important. But I would definitely agree with this. High blood pressure is a major killer, and it's a major cause of heart disease, heart attacks, strokes. And so you do want to control that. And even when people go on a carnivore diet and they improve their diabetes and improve their blood pressure, you can't just hop off medications. You can only do that in as appropriate, when your body, when it's time, when your blood sugar is down, now it's going too low. Okay, adjust that up, keep that in that right range with a combination of diet and medications. Same with blood pressure. If your blood pressure isn't being controlled, then blood pressure medication can be very helpful in keeping that down. So a couple things to check. First of all, there are causes of blood pressure issues that can be reversible. You talking about these secondary hypertension. So there's something that's causing it, like renal artery stenosis, pheochromocytoma. There's different sorts of things that can be there that your doctor can check for and should check for. It's very important to check for these things. You don't just say, probably just high blood pressure is high blood pressure. Whatever. No, there's some things that you can find that actually are reversible, and your high blood pressure is being caused by something. Obviously it's all being caused by something, but there's some of these things we know the causes of, and otherwise we have no idea. So you need to investigate that. So work with your doctor to investigate those things and reverse whatever's able to be reversible. But then the other things to think about is high homocysteine can irritate the arteries, cause constriction. Increasing your B12 and folate, that will reduce your homocysteine. In fact, high homocysteine is a better indicator of low or inadequate B12 or B12 deficiency than even serum levels of B12. So check your B12. You want it to be on the high end of normal or even above the range for most reference ranges. In America, you want to be between 1100 and 1600. The rest of the world, you want so America, it's picograms, so PG per ml. PG/ml, you want to be between 1100 and 1600. The rest of the world, or most of the rest of the world, uses picomoles per liter, so PMOL/L, and you want to have between 800 and 1200 if it's picomoles per liter. And so that's what you aim for. And if you do that and you check your homocysteine, that comes down, that can sometimes get your blood pressure down. Also, insulin resistance. It may just be that you're still dealing with a bit of insulin resistance. Test your fasting insulin first thing in the morning. If that's above 10, that can also be a reason why your blood pressure is a little high. And if that comes down, eventually that comes down, that can help normalize your blood pressure as well. And the other one to not forget is, while I don't have a problem with salt in general, I do have a problem with it in particular cases, because about 20% of people are salt sensitive and can actually get pretty labile blood pressure because they use salt. And so I don't use salt at all anymore, just because of taste. It doesn't taste as good to me anymore. But it doesn't bother my blood pressure. And other people it does. And so you just need to be mindful of that, and maybe try cutting out salt as well as checking your insulin, checking your homocysteine, checking your B12. Just cut out the salt. See what happens. Check your blood pressure daily. Same time, same conditions. Sitting down with feet flat on the floor. Don't cross your legs. And deep breaths, calm and relax. Chill out for about 5 minutes, and then check your blood pressure. There's also something called white coat syndrome, where you're just anticipating getting your blood pressure, so your blood pressure goes up, and you're like, oh my God, I don't want high blood pressure. It's going to be high every time. Every time you're worried about your blood pressure being high, it's going to be high. So just chill out, relax, deep thoughts, zen out, or deep breaths, zen out, and just chill, and then get your blood pressure taken. And that in itself can help, and is more indicative of what your blood pressure is like throughout the day, when you're not stressing out about what the hell your blood pressure is. So give all those things a try, and investigate what's going on with your doctor. And if all else fails, I would take medication. If I had high blood pressure, I would take medication for it. And I would recommend that to my patients as well, because high blood pressure is a major killer. And it's a major risk factor for a lot of major killers as well. So while 160 isn't a crisis, we get over 180, and that is considered a hypertensive emergency that you should go to the emergency room for. If it's a true number, you're not just freaking out because you're worried about something like your blood pressure. But if that's a real number, then you need to go get that sorted out, and quickly. And so I would treat that. I would definitely treat that. And in myself or in my patients, I would make sure that they get on a better blood pressure regimen, and then go through all those things that we talked about to try to get to the bottom of it. And hopefully you can come off the medications. But if you can't, that's what medications are for. That's like the only thing medications are for, is for when you do all the diet and lifestyle and sort of interventions, and there's still something a bit screwy. That's what medicine are for. That's what medicines are for. We're just using these as a crutch. Like, oh, something happens. Like, hey, you fix my bad habits. I'm going to eat and drink and do whatever and just trash my body. You give me a pill to fix it. Well, there are no pills that fix that crap. You can patch it up. You can cover up some symptoms, but you're not going to fix that. So you fix that first with your diet and lifestyle. And then if there's something left over, that's what medications are for. And so, you're doing it the exact right way. You're doing all the right things. Blood pressure is a little high. Great, fine. Take some blood pressure medication as your doctor recommends, and then investigate, why it is up, and see if there's something you can reverse. And hopefully it is. And hopefully you can come off the meds. But until then, probably a good idea. The feral grandma. Thank you very much for the super chat. That's great. Sending some love from Texas. Well, sending some love right back. Thank you very much for that. Big Gelato, thank you very much for the super chat. WebMD says meat causes kidney stones. That's funny. I wonder what they're basing that on. It's probably some sort of epidemiological nonsense. If you look at the actual physiology, gallstone or kidney stones are typically calcium oxalate stones. So 75% of kidney stones are calcium oxalate stones. And oxalates don't come from meat. So don't know why WebMD is saying something like that. That's a bit funny. Stink ass cat, good to see you, buddy. Thank you very much for the generous super chat. Carnivore karate kicks at a ribeye roast moon to you, to you, Dr. Chaffee, and all the wonderful mods and people on your channel. Well, thank you very much. It's great to see you. It's and appreciate the support. It's very kind of you. Okay, we still got a few more here. Okay. And great. So Annabelle, the happy carnivore, thank you very much for the super chat. Hi, doctor. I found out my dietitian thinks I'm still anorexic because I eat carnivore. I now eat tomahawk steaks. No one with anorexia eats tomahawk steaks. Yeah, I would hazard to say that you're correct. Well, you just the proof of the pudding's in the eating. If you're eating tomahawks, you're eating fatty meat till it stops tasting good, and you're putting on healthy weight, and you're healthy, then well, then that proves them wrong, doesn't it? Maybe they're freaking out because maybe, sometimes people with anorexia, they're like, no, you just have to eat anything. You just have to, food is all good. It's all good. There's no such thing as bad food. Well, of course there is bad food. And so I think that's a fundamental lapse in the teaching that is done in eating disorder psychology. And I have a suspicion that these are probably funded by the processed food industry. No food is bad food. Well, no food is bad food, but not everything you put in your mouth is food. So, and some things you put in your mouth are bad. And so I would suspect that they've got their hooks in there. They have their hooks in everything. But that's probably where that comes from. But if you got put on just eating junk, just eat anything, it's okay. It's okay that you put on weight. It's okay that you put on fat. Well, to a certain extent, yes. But getting unhealthy in the other direction isn't ideal either. And so if somebody tells them to, well, you're anorexic, so you just need to eat and get fat and just love it, and big is beautiful and all that sort of stuff. Well, it's better than dying of anorexia, sure, but it's it's not the best that you can do. And so if you're going carnivore now and you're losing weight, they're like, oh my God, you're losing weight. And it's just like, well, no, I'm losing unhealthy weight. I'm putting on healthy weight. Get a DEXA scan, show your body composition. And so that, in 3 months time, 6 months time, you've lost excess body fat and to a healthy degree, and you've put on lean body mass and bone density. Or if you're underweight and you're just putting on lean body mass and bone density, and just be like, well, look, I'm not anorexic. I'm eating big tomahawks. I'm eating more calories a day than you are. And so, I'm not anorexic. But that's a bit unfortunate that they think that. But hopefully, just leading by example will show them that maybe they're looking at that they definitely are looking at this the wrong way. So good luck with that. I'm really glad to hear that you're doing so much better and recovering from anorexia. It's a very difficult illness, and you're doing great. You're eating big tomahawks, so that's always an improvement. So good job. Savine, thank you very much for the super chat. What's the difference between HDL and LDL and their role? Excellent question. That's not I'm probably not the best to answer that, but they all have the major roles of HDL and LDL is they're transport molecules. They're transporting fat, lipids, and cholesterol around the body and transporting them to and from the liver, from your fat cells to your liver, from your liver to somewhere else, and then back to your liver again. And so, and there's a whole very complex biochemical pathway and flow chart that you can sort of look at, and you look at biochemistry books and physiology books. You can sort of see that. You start with VLDL, it turns to LDL and IDL and all these ILDL and all these other sorts of things. And there's different sorts of when they're picking up and dropping off different amounts of fat, triglycerides, and lipids and cholesterol and things like that. So it's quite complex. But that's the main role, is they're just transporting fat around the body. And so why would it be that, when we just stop eating? So they say, well, when you eat fatty meat, you eat more saturated fat, your LDL goes up because, there's more fat in your body. Well, yes and no, because when you just fast and you just don't eat at all for 5 days, LDL will go up, HDL will go up, triglycerides will go down. That's the exact same pattern that we see when people just eat meat. And so, well, why is that? Well, it's a metabolic state change. You're running on fat, your body needs to move more fat. Fat can't just freely move around the body. It has to be carried and transported in HDL and LDL. And so now you're running on your fat. So you need to move the fat from your fat to your liver to then turn that into glucose and ketones and glycogen. And then, you're moving more fat around the body. Pretty simple. And it actually does a lot of other things as well. Actually has a part to play in the innate immunity. So people that have lower LDL actually have worse outcomes with infectious disease and die more from infectious disease than people with higher LDL. They die more from cancer than people with high LDL. So this has a big role in your body. It's not just moving lipids around your body. It's actually involved in a lot of other processes. And where is it moving those lipids to? Maybe they're moving it to some damaged site or some infection site and helping, the body fight these infections and cancers off. So that certainly seems to be what is going on. So it's a very good question, but it's one that you sort of need a whole chapter in a biochemistry book to answer. So, check that out. You can go and check out, those different things, those different processes and pathways and what they do. But that's the main thing that they do is they move fat and cholesterol around your body. And that's important to do because we need fat and cholesterol all over our body and our brain. And so, yeah, your brain makes cholesterol. If your brain doesn't have proper cholesterol, there are tons of studies showing that if you disrupt the normal cholesterol metabolism of the brain, you get serious neurodegenerative diseases and even neurodevelopmental issues and diseases as well. And now we're doing everything we can to disrupt and screw up our normal cholesterol metabolism of our brain by giving ourselves medications to cross the blood-brain barrier and stop our brain from making cholesterol, which is what our brain is made out of. So that's frustrating, especially when they're talking about giving this stuff to kids. You're like, oh my God, their cholesterol is high. What? Breast milk has the highest concentration of saturated fat and cholesterol of any food in nature. Good. I hope they have high cholesterol because it's not high cholesterol. That's a value judgment that somebody put on, and they're wrong. Cholesterol does not cause heart disease. It never has. It never will. It's never been proven to cause it. It has been disproven to cause it. But we say, well, that's only showing that those particular fats were worse than saturated fat. Well, show me one fat that is better than saturated fat. Show me one example of any experimental data showing that saturated fat and cholesterol cause heart disease. There isn't a single one in the entire body of literature anywhere on earth, anywhere in history. So why are you saying that it's causative when you have no reason to say it's causative? It's pretty frustrating, but those are the facts, and that's just as long as we understand the facts, we can at least use those facts to help our lives and not be sucked into these megalomaniacs who just want control and money. So a bit of a tangent. Sorry about that, but yeah, hopefully that was helpful. Annabella, the Happy Carnivore, thank you again for another super chat. I need surgery for skin cancer. Can I get some sunlight? I have fair English skin. Thank you for everything you do. You're amazing. Well, thank you. That's very sweet of you. Yeah, well, certainly get the surgery. Sunlight is still good for you, as this is again a correlation. It's not causation, but as hours of sunlight have decreased in America over the past century, skin cancer rates have gone up. It's reciprocal. It's an X. It's an X-shaped graph, right? And so that's not to say that skin damage can't contribute. It is pretty clear evidence that it's not one-to-one, that the sun is the only thing causing skin cancer. Well, you get cancer in other parts of your body as well. Is that from the sun too, or is that from what? Because you're getting disruptions and damage to the cellular mechanisms and processes in your tissues, and that can then precipitate itself as cancers. From 100% of them of known cancers are from damaged mitochondria. So you're getting damaged mitochondria in the skin. You can get damaged mitochondria from the sun, but in fact, being in the sun actually improves mitochondrial function. That's not something they tell you. And so, avoiding the sun, you typically avoid it. If you have fair English skin, you've probably been avoiding sun your whole life, and yet you get skin cancer. Oh, that damn sun just trying to kill us all. No, it could be that avoiding the sun was more detrimental than being in the sun, because being in the sun, you can actually improve your mitochondrial function, whereas being out of the sun, you're not getting that benefit, but all these other sorts of things can damage your mitochondria as well. So I fully on board with people going in the sun. If you have skin cancer, get it taken off. But sun is very healthy as long as you're not burning yourself, and you're going to burn much less easily on a carnivore diet. So, be cautious, be careful, but you can get red. That's not a burn. A burn is when the skin dies and it peels off and you get the flaking peel. That's a burn. Redness is just redness. That's just blood going to the surface of the skin. That's all that is. And so that's not a burn. That's not necessarily permanent damage. It can indicate permanent damage, but it's not necessarily permanent damage. I can get red, but that will turn into a tan. It will not do a full body peel like it used to when I was just eating a very clean omnivorous diet. And so just don't get so much sun that you're doing that you're peeling. Put tallow moisturizer on your skin, keep it moist and healthy. And I think sun's a very good idea. It helps your nitric oxide, vitamin D. Vitamin D is really important for cancer. You really want your vitamin D up around 220 when you're treating cancer. And how do you get that? You get in the sun, and you get it from eating fatty meat and grass-fed butter, those sorts of things. So you're getting very good nutrients from that. You're also improving the mitochondrial function and health. And when your mitochondria work better, you don't get cancer. This is something that Otto Warburg theorized, really showed, and from the physiological standpoint, that if you have healthy mitochondria, you cannot get cancer. And that's something that's been proven subsequently by replacing out the mitochondria in cancer cells, and it suppresses the cancer cells, stops them from being cancer if there's healthy mitochondria in there. So that's what's going on. So you're in the sun, you're improving your mitochondrial health, you're actually less likely to get cancer, as long as you're not burning yourself and making things counterproductive. So good luck with that. Hope the surgeries go well, and keep up the good work. You're doing great. And we're sort of coming down on the last sort of few questions. But this is one from Andy Hall. Thank you very much, Andy, for the very generous super chat. It's very kind of you. In your experience, how long does it take for Crohn's to go into complete remission on carnivore? I'm a 52-year-old male, carnivore for 3 months. Doctor started me on, Skyrizi? Oh, that's a cool name. Probably a horrible drug, but a cool name. It's marketing. That's all that matters. But I'm worried about taking biologics long term. Yeah, well, that's the whole idea, is that they can have long lasting issues and effects. But when you're dealing with something like Crohn's, very debilitating, very ill, makes you very ill, and can be very dangerous. And it's the lesser of two evils in that circumstance. But in this circumstance, not so much. So you have to be really strict with any autoimmune issue. And you'll notice this on Crohn's. If you go off your biologics, you go off prednisone, things like that, and you have something, you really need to be like red meat and water. So like beef, lamb, and water, high fat, very high fat. And when you do that, you'll find that Crohn's gets into remission very quickly. When people do a strict lion diet, I have yet to see it take longer than 3 months. And typically people do a biopsy of their colon, like a colonoscopy, and take a biopsy. There's like no inflammation on biopsy as well. There can be other things. If you're really stressed out, you're getting poor sleep, you're having other sorts of things, other negative inputs in your environment, that can make things worse. If you're still having a bit of issues with just beef and lamb, go for grass-fed and finished beef and lamb. That's going to be the best of the best. That's always your baseline. That's always the best you can do. And then, you adjust from there if you feel that you can. Usually grass-fed butter is okay, but I would probably avoid it until you're sort of putting this into remission and you're off the biologics and you can see how that affects you, because you might find, and you probably will find, that you have this in remission and everything's fine, and then you have a pork chop, and then all of a sudden you have a bit of a flare up, and you're like, okay, get the hell away from that. Or some eggs, and you have a flare up, like, oh, okay, screw that. And so you really need to be really strict red meat and water. And usually people with Crohn's do better, because if you just eat a pork chop or a salad and all of a sudden you have bloody diarrhea for the next 3 days, like you're just never doing that again. You're like, yeah, screw that. I'm never doing that again. That was horrible. And so it's very easy to see. Whereas with things like Hashimoto's, you don't necessarily see it right away. It increases antibodies that damage your thyroid, start reducing the thyroid function, and then in the coming days and weeks you start having less energy and feeling a bit more lethargic and tired, and you're like, that's weird, why am I not feeling so good? Well, it was from that stupid salad that you had a week ago, or maybe added back in because you didn't think it was that big of a deal, and so you've been having it every now and then. And so they can be less strict with something like Hashimoto's, whereas with Crohn's, you see it right then. Same with rheumatoid arthritis. Like, you're going to know about it if you eat something your body reacts negatively to and starts creating more antibodies for. So just go really pure red meat and water, really high fat, 2 grams of fat to 1 gram of protein if you can. And if you've been in remission and you haven't had a flare up and everything's been fine for a few months, you can absolutely think about having a trial off of the biologics and see how you go. And actually I haven't really seen anybody have a flare up if they did that, if they just stuck with red meat and water. There are people that have been good for so long that they get complacent. They think, well, I can sort of eat outside of that, and then they have a big massive flare up, and it takes a long time for them to get out of that flare up. But as long as they stay on just red meat and water, I've never seen anybody have a flare up otherwise. Things can be a bit worse with stress and poor sleep. So, that's important to remember as well. But, that aside, just, if you address that stuff and then just do red meat and water, and you've had no symptoms, for a month, 2 months, 3 months, definitely, definitely fair to try coming off the Skyrizi and see how you do. And you have a flare up and things go horrible, you can always go back on the meds. It's not like playing Russian roulette. It's not like this could kill you sort of thing. If you have a flare up, you go back on medication, fine. But you won't. The vast majority of people are able to put this into remission very quickly with a pure red meat and water diet, but it really does need to be strict. You slip outside of that, and unfortunately, you're just going to get things in your body, and your body's going to make antibodies towards them and react and damage your intestines, and you're going to have problems. So do the best you can just to stick to just red meat and water, and I think you do really well. So good luck with that. So Annabella, the Happy Carnivore, sent a super sticker. Very kind of you. I appreciate that. Then Bo and Nikki Tessier. I'm gonna guess that's how that's pronounced. Been on PD dialysis. That's peritoneal dialysis for 3 years. Any worries starting carnivore tomorrow? No, not at all. The thing is like if you're already on dialysis, I mean, even if it were true that meat and higher protein damage the kidneys, which it is not, you're already on dialysis. You're not going to get more on dialysis, right? Like it's not, if your kidneys don't work, they're not going to they're not going to like get any worse, right? You're already there, right? Is it going to reverse it? And can you get off dialysis? There have been a handful of isolated anecdotal cases that I've seen of people coming off dialysis, 3 that I've seen. And there's one who is on peritoneal dialysis, who's been on here and been in some of my groups, and he was vegan for a number of years, and at the ripe old age of 32, he destroyed his kidneys and neurology, and he was actually bedridden and couldn't walk and couldn't use his phone because his hands wouldn't work, and he was on dialysis because of his vegan diet, which has just destroyed his health. And so anybody tells you the vegan diet is healthy, you can tell them that they're out of their damn mind. And any diet that doesn't provide you even basic nutrients is a bad diet. Like there's no two ways about that. But you can supplement. No. You shouldn't have to supplement. If your diet cannot provide basic nutrients, it is a bad diet. Full stop. So he actually is improving. He's walking again. He's working out. He's exercising. He's lifting weights, and he's back having a normal life again. He's still on dialysis, but he's still able to make urine. He's making more urine and making more urine. So he's actually on the transplant list to get new kidneys, but he is giving it a year and seeing if he can, seeing what he can do in that. And it has been improving. Will improve all the way that he doesn't need the transplant. We don't know, but it's certainly not hurting him anyway, and it's getting better. And I did an interview with Professor Thomas Wimes, who is a professor and research scientist, professor of biology and research scientist, specifically in kidneys and kidney disease and chronic kidney disease and polycystic kidney disease, and at University of California, Santa Barbara. And I just did an interview with him that you should definitely check out. And he's finding that people are significantly improving their kidney function by going on ketogenic diets, high-fat, meat-based ketogenic diets like a carnivore diet. And so he's a big fan of the carnivore diet as well, specifically for kidney disease and chronic kidney disease and damage. So it's very, very interesting and great to see more and more data and hard research coming out showing that this is an improvement. And so no, there's no worries on that. Make sure you're drinking water appropriately, eating appropriately, all these other sorts of things, and hopefully, you'll do better in 1,000 other ways, but it's it remains to be seen how much benefit you get from your kidney function. I hope it works. I hope you get off dialysis and don't need a transplant or anything like that. Just depends on how much damage is done. It depends on what was causing it in the first place. If it was from polycystic kidney disease, that absolutely has been shown to be extremely helpful. In fact, they show that it actually reversed a lot of the polycystic kidney disease, and they tried to get another grant from the NIH or whoever, and the study design was amazing, got the highest rating. Like all the people, the peer review sort of things that looked at it said, yeah, this is a great study. This is fantastic. You should definitely approve funding for this. And it went up to the higher ones that ended up denying it because they said, these results are too good to be true. No one's ever gotten results like that, so they can't be true. It's like what? It's too good. Therefore, we're not going to do it. Well, that's why you test it, isn't it? You're not going to get anywhere if you just do the same. If you do the same thing that people have always done, you're going to get the results people have always gotten. We're trying something new. We're getting different results. Look at that. Let's test it. Let's study it. That's why we want a grant. And no, couldn't possibly be. Goodness. All right. But that's what they're showing is that polycystic kidney disease is a major cause of kidney failure. Diabetes is the major cause of kidney failure. They both get taken out and can be reversed with a ketogenic, high-fat, meat-based ketogenic diet like a carnivore diet. So good luck with that. I hope it goes really, really well for you. and then you just have nothing but good results, and hopefully your kidneys get better too. Fingers crossed. And my sister piping in saying that I'm using Elle's cup. Well, we live in the same house and we both use cups. So there you go. And it's a big cup, and I like big cups because I like to drink water. But she uses my cups anyway. She steals all my stuff anyway, so I can have the damn cup. Thank you very much. Low carb, low drama. Thank you very much for the super sticker. Sort of down into the thank yous and the stickers. So thank you all very much for the super stickers. Thank you, low carb, low drama. Thank you very much, Steve Large, for a very nice super sticker. And Ibrahim Berry, thank you very much as well. It's very nice to see you all here. Merrick Hudson, thank you very much. Very generous super sticker. Very kind of you. Thank you. I have a couple comments here from Rosalind again. What are you giving me grief for now? I hope you say thank you to Elle for letting you use her special Chaffee Woman cup. Yeah, well, I'm sure I have, and I'll be sure to remind her to thank me for using all my things that she steals without my permission. So thank you. Kevin Sylvan, thank you very much for stopping by and just saying hi from X. And so we're on X and Facebook and YouTube at the moment. So yeah, good to see everybody here. And I wonder actually how many people are watching from where actually. Just double check on YouTube thing here. What is that? Okay. And interesting. Okay. And yeah, and so we'll be in Rendezvous City Beef Roundup on the 23rd and the 24th of August. That'll be in Riverton, Wyoming. Before that, the week before that, I will be speaking at the Symposium for Metabolic Health in San Diego. So this will be the second year in a row that I'll be speaking there, and that's a great conference. It's very interesting. A lot of really, really good speakers and interesting talks there. And easy there. And so yeah, so a lot of great talks there too. So please do come down if you're in San Diego and you want to see some of those talks, or do like a meet and greet. I think probably think about doing like a some sort of meetup and go to like a steakhouse or something like that, or one of those Brazilian places, and see if people are around in San Diego. We might set that up. And yeah, and then I'll be the next week we'll be back in Wyoming. And yeah, so thank you all very much for coming on. And I think this is the last one there is, yeah, the super sticker from Zeus. So thank you all very much. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. Thank you all for the wonderful comments and chats. And hopefully people got a lot out of this. Please do leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you haven't already, if you like this sort of content and like my other videos. And please do share that with people and let them know, that there is a way that they can get better naturally, and they can just eat normal food for humans and live a normal human life. And please do leave a comment below if you have and see your experience with a carnivore diet. Tell us about how this has affected you and how it has helped you as well. Or, if you're struggling, do leave a comment and people can help. I try to answer questions when I can. I don't see all the comments, but if you're having an issue, you can just ask for help. This is a wonderful community. There are a lot of people that can help people through, different transition issues and people having different sorts of problems. There are so many people that have been through the exact same issue that you have been. There's nothing new under the sun. There are millions of people now that are doing this and have been doing this for a number of years. And so there's a lot of very experienced people that can help you along the way. So don't be afraid to ask. And if you're having some troubles, and if people that are having that have improved a lot of issues, please do leave a comment and talk about the issues that you've improved, because somebody else out there is going through exactly what you were going through, and will be helped by that and see that and go like, okay, maybe I'll give this a try. And so you'll help a lot of people with that. Your sphere of influence is what's doing this. Your personal sphere of influence, you sharing this, you talking about this, you saying, hey, this is what's helped me. This is what has reversed in my life, people see that. Your family sees that. Your friends see that. People online see that. And so people see your comments and they think like, oh, you know what, that's something that I'm going through. That's helped them. Maybe it can help me too. And that's how this grows. And it's not going to come from top down. We're not there yet. So it has to come from the bottom up. And so that's what's going to grow this, is everyone here sharing their experiences. And so please do. And thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time.